Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is, What If Naruto Hated His Own Teammates, Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Hand of the Heavenly. Why were those people just standing around trying to get through the wrong door? Questioned Sakura, shaking her head. That was so stupid. Glad we didn't reveal the obvious genjutsu. Hopefully, all the morons get eliminated before the exams even begin. I can't believe so many shinobi don't know how to count, said Naruto, surprised. You would think that they all had knowledge of basic math. Maybe there was a genjutsu on them too. Doubtful, answered Sasuke, mulling it over. Even if it was, there should have been some people who picked up on it and countered it. There are genin who have a natural knack for seeing through genjutsu like that Hyuga. Uchiha Sasuke. Boomed a voice behind them. I challenge you. The three turned to see the green spandex wearing genin from before. His eyes blazed with fire as he jumped down from the floor above them. Naruto was secretly impressed by the boy's natural speed. I am Rock Lee, the green beast of Konoha. Green beast, muttered Sakura in timid confusion. Shouldn't you wait for the exams to challenge Sasuke? I must know which one of us rookies of the year is stronger. Uchiha-san was your year's rookie as I was the rookie for my year, replied the green beast, beating his chest in emphasis. The only way to know is to have a spar. Wasn't the rookie of last year Hyuga Neji? Posited Naruto, slightly confused. I'm not entirely sure, but I don't think it was you. Rock Lee bowed his head in shame. Team 7 glanced at each other, wondering if they should take the boy seriously. He had already proclaimed a challenge under false credentials and seemed to have this peculiar attitude. It's true, I lied, confirmed Rock Lee solemnly. The true rookie of the year for my generation was my teammate Hyuga Neji. I just wanted to sound convincing so that Uchiha-san would take my challenge. Oh, well then, how about fighting me? Proposed Naruto thoughtfully. I'd like to test myself against a more experienced genin to see how I measure up. I'm sorry, but the only one I wish to fight is Uchiha-san, said Lee dismissively. It is my sworn oath to prove that bloodline geniuses such as Uchiha-san and my own teammate can be defeated through hard work. Naruto rolled his eyes. Here was another shinobi who emphasized the bloodline superiority. This crap never got old. That's completely ridiculous, admonished Naruto with a lace of annoyance. By putting importance on people who do better and happen to have bloodlines, you're emphasizing your own inferiority as a consequence. Why does it matter if Sasuke fits criteria similar to your teammate? How would beating Sasuke prove that hard work defeats geniuses, as you say? You presumably have more experience than him already. It seems to me that you're just trying to justify yourself. You reject my challenge for the same reason that stuck-up bloodline clans reject people without bloodlines. Lee had no words to say as a response. Naruto walked off, followed closely by Sakura and Sasuke. Petty school kid challenges weren't worth partaking in, and they ultimately proved absolutely nothing. The three were pressed for time to enter the Chunin exams anyway. There appeared to be more to the blonde kid than what Lee first assumed. As they entered the test-taking area for the Chunin exams, Ino suddenly jumped from behind and wrapped herself around Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, bellowed Ino as Sasuke took on an annoyed look. Glad to see that you're finally here. Oh, why hello there, forehead girl. Sakura looked annoyed but didn't comment. She didn't want to participate in any more stupid games after what she had experienced in Wave Country. It seemed petty and juvenile after seeing dead bodies, a miniature war, and having fought with the feeling of her life in danger. She felt that she couldn't afford to go back to childish antics. At least, not if she wanted to keep living as a shinobi and not end up in the morgue. Naruto had been scanning the area to look at all the other teams. He quickly looked away upon spotting one certain team. Sasuke followed his gaze and his eyes shined with understanding. Team Uzumaki, handpicked by the clan head, had joined this Chunin exam to demonstrate the strength of the Uzumaki clan this year. Both the Fire Daimyo and Uzumaki Kushina hoped to show the finest of Konoha's strength to earn more trade and clients. The Uzumaki team was currently looking straight at Naruto in contempt. They had obviously sensed his chakra signature enter the room. Well, looks like the gang's all here, said Shikamaru, walking over to Team 7, distracting Naruto and Sasuke. looks like everyone from the graduating class has entered the exams, how troublesome. Choji gave a silent nod and continued eating his potato chips. Teammates soon came up to them after spotting their graduating class. Can't you be more encouraging? Asked Ino in annoyance. She got off Sasuke and copied Shikamaru's slouched pose with her hands in her pockets. Oh look, all our friends from school got into the exams, how troublesome. Ino had punctuated the last part as she attempted to emulate Shikamaru's voice. Choji had made sure to swallow his potato chips before outright laughing at Shikamaru's discomfort. Come on, Shikamaru. All our senseis think we're good enough to become Chunin. Show some enthusiasm and stop being such a downer. I'm not a downer, replied Shikamaru defensively with a hint of annoyance. Yeah, right, you just act like everything and everyone is too much of a bother. You add how troublesome near the end of every sentence like it's a catchphrase, Ino pointed out brashly. Why would anyone want to talk to you when you keep doing that? Just stop it. Have some fun. Shikamaru blushed and looked away. Inwardly, he was cursing troublesome women. Well, you're one to talk, Ino, considering you're acting like a whore, said Kiba openly as he walked toward the rest of the group. I mean, hanging off Sasuke like that. We're 12. What the hell did you just say? Snarled Ino, turning to Kiba looking insulted. Care to repeat that, dog shit? Akamaru, from within Kiba's hat, growled at Ino. Kiba looked ready to yell back when Hinata swiftly hit him with her elbow to quiet him. Kiba turned to her and smiled appreciatively. Hinata rolled her eyes and turned to Sasuke. Shino stood silently by them and gave a curt nod as hello. Hello Uchiha-san, Uzumaki-san, Haruno-san, greeted the Hyuga heiress. I'm glad that you've all made it. It's a pleasant surprise to see our entire graduating class take the exam. I wish you three the best of luck. Same to the rest of you. Ma, you don't have to be so formal, said Kiba admonishingly. Hinata's face scrunched up in annoyance, but Kiba didn't appear to see it. Kiba glared at Naruto. I'm gonna kick your ass, Uzumaki. Naruto looked a bit startled at that. Hinata face-palmed and shook her head, and Shino let out an exasperated sigh. Even Shino was at his limits with Kiba's attitude today. The boy had been a tad too boastful about how he would be number one in the exam. Kiba-san, I know you're excited for the tournament, said Hinata carefully. However, I must insist that you stop acting like a fool. Alright, I'll lay off the dead last weakling, said Kiba smirking, turning to Hinata, if you go out with me. Kiba-san, muttered Hinata darkly, not bothering to turn and face him. This is neither the time nor place to ask such stupid questions. Furthermore, I've explained many times before, as the Hyuga heiress, there are certain behavioral customs of my family that I must adhere to. One of them is to have strictly platonic relationships outside of the clan with people who do not carry a prominent bloodline limit. I have told you this before, and I have mentioned that it is a serious obligation that I must follow. Please refrain from insulting my clan any further. What? I'm not. Kiba was interrupted by Hinata. Hinata finally turned around to glare at him. Yes, you are, said Hinata bluntly. By denouncing my clan's traditions as old and rubbish, you are insulting the Hyuga name. Stop it. My family will ask that I be removed from Kurenai-sensei's team and may seek damages for your slander. Pursuing a personal relationship with me is foolhardy. You do not carry a strong bloodline, and I don't see you as anything more than a friend. Kiba looked a bit hurt by that statement but seemed to let it slide. Neither noticed Naruto's fists balled in rage. Naruto calmed himself down to make sure that he didn't act out his anger. He tried to keep his anger in check most times, and Kiba's words were really pushing it. Hinata turned to face the rest of them. Would you greenhorns keep it down? Demanded a voice as footsteps closed in on them. Naruto turned around to see a bespectacled man with silver hair. You're causing a commotion for the other participants. Naruto looked to see most people in the room were just talking to each other. Most of the team seemed to be strategizing about the test. Naruto jolted slightly when he sensed the man's chakra. This man had as much chakra as Kakashi-sensei. He was likely one of the examiners. We're sorry, apologized Naruto at once. Were we breaking any rules? No, said the man looking at him strangely. Oh sorry, I'm Yakushi Kabuto, I'm a veteran in these exams. Wait, you're not an examiner? Asked Naruto in surprise. Kabuto's eyed him confused before his eyes shined with realization upon looking at Naruto. What did you mean by veteran? It means that he's kept losing every time he took this exam, said Kiba bluntly as he snorted in mirth, just like you will, dead last. Shino shook his head slightly while Hinata scowled at Kiba. The Inazaka's actions today were deplorable. They were making the team and Kurenai-sensei look bad. I beg to differ, Kiba, said Sasuke turning to face Kiba. He was thoroughly annoyed with the Inazaka's attitude already. If any of our teams are most likely to win, then it's definitely ours. Ah, have confidence in yourself, Uchiha-san. Posed Kabuto genuinely smiling. Sasuke turned to look at Kabuto. It is no surprise. You are from a powerful and respected bloodline. I've heard rumors in our village that you've already awakened your Sharingan. I must say, that is quite extraordinary at such a young age. Sasuke eyed him suspiciously. There was something about that comment. It's like this guy is purposely trying to remind me that Itachi is better, thought Sasuke, and he's full of flattery. I have confidence in my team, said Sasuke with a hint of pride. I can't wait to show the proctors exactly what we can do. Kabuto's smile widened slightly at that statement. Sakura and Naruto couldn't help but smile at those words of encouragement. Yes, well, I may have something that can help you fresh out of the Academy Greenhorns, said Kabuto pulling out a pack of cards. I have here an encyclopedia of information on our fellow contestants and some information concerning their native lands. I'd be happy to share any knowledge on the other contestants with you all. It'll help to give you an edge on the competition. How did you come by this information? Asked Sasuke, raising an eyebrow. Shinobi mission reports, skills, and even bloodlines are considered carefully guarded village secrets. They're only released onto bingo books if the shinobi has defected from the shinobi village they lived in. Very correct, Uchiha-san, said Kabuto enthusiastically. As you can see, this is valuable information and it can help anyone who would like to learn more about the other teams. Hinata looked at Kabuto suspiciously upon hearing those words. Sasuke noticed that Kabuto hadn't answered his question at all. Naruto became afraid of anyone asking about him. Kiba grinned as an idea formed in his mind. Alright, Uzumaki, Hinata elbowed Kiba before he could finish that sentence. OWWW. Team Uzumaki, added Sakura hastily. She hoped that Kabuto wouldn't bring out Naruto's card for what could potentially be in there. That's what Kiba-san meant. Ino looked suspiciously between Sakura and Naruto. She began drawing her own conclusions. It would explain why Sakura hadn't taken the bait when Ino's arms were around Sasuke. Her teammates just stood silently listening on. Choji was more concerned for his potato chips and Shikamaru was too busy being a fake emo. Okay. Kabuto hid his genuine surprise after realizing the Uchiha and pink-haired girl knew about the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's secret. Let's see here. Here are all 3 cards concerning Team Uzumaki. I must say, smart thinking in trying to discover their abilities. The clan head and fire daimyo have been rather boastful about how successful they will be in today's exams. The clan head, Uzumaki Kushina, has personally trained them. The squad leader is being groomed to be the next heir of the Uzumaki clan. He's arranged to marry the daughter of the clan head so they can return to the old system of rule with a male leader. Why does it have to be a male leader? Asked Sakura, furrowing her brows. If their current leader is a female, then why do they want to return to the old way of doing things? Well, it's important to their traditions, answered Kabuto, shrugging. The Uzumaki clan wants to return to as much traditional clan values as possible. It's important to their people. Some of the more barbaric laws will never be passed, but the Uzumaki people seem to desire a return to normalcy regarding how a clan should function. It's actually possible to accomplish that goal under the specialized Konohagakure laws that give unique privileges to prominent bloodline clans. It's not violating the laws of Konohagakure no Sato to have stipulations like male clan leaders, arranged marriages, and other social constraints that only affect their own families. While people without bloodlines feel it's old and should be rid of, prominent bloodline clans with wealth and power feel their family traditions are being violated if those laws are questioned. But they're wrong, snarled Kiba. Hinata fixed Kiba with an angry stare. She did not appreciate her family's olden traditions being insulted so snidely. Who made those stupid laws anyway? The Shidaime enacted them to show courtesy to the Uchiha and Hyuga, said Kabuto sternly at Kiba, out of everlasting respect and a form of permanent friendship when Konoha was first built. To speak so crudely of those laws is an insult to the very foundations of Konoha. Kiba shut his mouth after that. He didn't have a brazen reply to counter that significant historic fact. Hinata and Sasuke were both scowling at him since he had insulted both of them rather foolishly. Oh yes, about the team, began Kabuto looking down at the cards he had picked out. Team Uzumaki, consisting of Uzumaki Yakumo, Uzumaki Renmara, and their squad leader Uzumaki Idate. 3 pictures were shown on cards. The first was of a girl with long chestnut hair, a loose silky purple kimono with flowers all over it, and standard shinobi leg wear. The second was of a boy with short purple hair, a dark purplish kimono with dark blue Uzumaki swirls all over it, and standard shinobi leg wear. The last was a black-haired boy with ruggish hair with a bottom tied to a ponytail. He had a white kimono covered with a black battle-armored vest, a katana sheathed on his left side, and standard shinobi leg wear. These body shot photos all seemed to be taken from the same place and looked different than typical shinobi photos such as those for genin. The girl was Yakumo, the purple-haired boy was Renmara, and the black-haired leader was Idate. It seems the Uzumaki clan took these pictures themselves, muttered Kabuto reflexively fixing his glasses. They're known to have completed 30 C-rank missions and 42 B-rank missions. All under supervision of their instructors, but it's still a rather impressive feat. For most C-rank missions they were under the Junin Uzumaki Akahoshi, and for B-rank missions they were under the clan head. I must say, they've definitely been groomed for success. If half of all the boasting is true, it seems almost certain that they'll annihilate the competition. B-rank missions, shouted Kiba incredulously as his eyes widened. Everyone else had the same looks of shock. Those were Chunin and Junin level missions. Genin weren't supposed to take such missions. Yes, unfortunately it seems their bloodlines have been carefully guarded, but it's been speculated that these 3 have either bone or steel bloodlines due to their commonality within the clan. Wait, Team Uzumaki? Questioned Ino, fixating Naruto with a stare. Naruto, I thought you were an orphan. I was kicked out of my clan years ago, Ino, said Naruto, refusing to elaborate any further. Before anybody else could comment, Naruto quickly tried to change subjects. Kabuto-san, do you know of any other participants who seem just as dangerous in this exam? What's wrong, dead last? Baited a sneering Kiba, trying to avoid the fact you suck so much that your clan threw you out. The temperature around the group seemed to drop. Everyone went silent at that point and glanced between Kiba and Naruto. Kabuto surreptitiously watched the interaction of the 12-year-olds in front of him. Seeing how Sasuke reacted to this would only better his mission in manipulating Team 7 for their trust. However, Kabuto admitted that even he felt it was necessary for the stupid dog to shut up. Kiba was indirectly interfering with Kabuto's goals. Naruto's fists balled in rage yet again. Everyone could see it now. Sasuke and Sakura looked ready to yell at Kiba. Sasuke-san, interrupted Hinata before the situation could get volatile. It broke Sasuke out of his reverie temporarily. Naruto-san, could you both come with me for a moment? I'd like to discuss something with you both for a moment. You too, Shikamaru-san. Naruto and Sasuke looked at each other before following where Hinata motioned them to go. Shikamaru sighed in exasperation, but one look from Ino made him follow along with Naruto and Sasuke. Kiba followed too and ignored the harsh glare from Hinata. So what's this about me? Accused Kiba, annoyed. He anticipated that they would talk about him. And why the hell are you talking about me with these 3? Shikamaru and Naruto both let out exasperated sighs of frustration. Sasuke scowled at Kiba and looked ready to fight him. Hinata gave him another glare before turning to the other 3. It's about Yakushi-san, began Hinata before being interrupted by Kiba. Who? Asked Kiba, confused at the direction the conversation was going. That your boyfriend? It's the veteran genin who introduced himself to us, you idiot, said Shikamaru, fed up with Kiba's attitude. This is why I don't like talking to people. You're all troublesome and stupid. Just look at all the drama that you caused. Me? Why you? Shikamaru's hands flew up in the air as he turned to go back to his teammates and the others of the group. He didn't care to be near any of these people. No, you know what? Said Shikamaru, pissed off. Fuck this and fuck you all. I knew telling the truth would get me nowhere with you. Kiba, you're a dipshit, and if you don't realize how obvious you are about wanting to get into Hinata's pants, then you're an even bigger dipshit than I first realized. Stop thinking with your dick and start using your brain, if you have one. Shikamaru stalked off as Kiba glared at his retreating figure. Hinata sighed in frustration. Kiba-san, leave, she whispered harshly. Kiba turned around to look at her and began to open his mouth. Leave. Kiba looked startled by that and turned around to go back to where Shino was. Finally, it was just Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata. Hinata turned to face them and was silent for several moments to gather her thoughts. Anyway, this is a serious matter, began Hinata, peering at both of them. Yukushi-san is a suspicious character that we mustn't trust. I do not know how he acquired that information, but it's dangerous for someone to be able to gain access to full-blown records such as mission statistics and potential bloodline secrets. He has both of us on file, said Sasuke, catching on quickly, realizing the alarming danger of what that man was capable of. He could give our secrets out to any hidden village interested in our bloodlines. You're both from prominent clans, so the bloodlines aren't too much of a big deal, said Naruto, attempting to distract himself from what Kiba told him, but individual statistics on your strengths and weaknesses and who you commonly associate with. You both should know that he's completely lying about being a genin. He has as much chakra as a Junin. Sasuke looked more alarmed at that information. He made sure not to turn his gaze where Kabuto was. Hinata wasn't fazed by the information because she had briefly activated her Byakugan to check his chakra under suspicion that he was lying. She had picked up on the man's body language when Sasuke had asked the question about where he got the info cards and deduced that Kabuto was hiding something. Hinata sensed there was something wrong that she didn't entirely understand yet. A genin who was Junin level and had secret military information in card form. It was frightening to think about. Naruto-san, I didn't bring you here to participate in this discussion, said Hinata, looking over at where the rest of the graduating group was to find looks of suspicion. She turned to look Naruto in the eyes. I wish to apologize on behalf of my teammate for his belligerent behavior and disgraceful comments. He has been acting up in his excitement for the exams as of late. He attacked you specifically because you are the dead last of our graduating class. That is why he didn't insult anybody else. Unlike Uchiha-san and the rest, he feels that you are inferior to him. Naruto, you should have argued back, added Sasuke gently. If it had been me, I would have hit him. Especially that part about family, which was completely uncalled for. Arguing back never solves anything, Sasuke, replied Naruto. He sighed quietly. Hinata-san, I'm sorry, but I don't accept that apology. You shouldn't be apologizing. He should be for what he said. It's not your fault that he's acting like that. Hinata shook her head at Naruto and smiled sympathetically. Naruto walked back to where the others were. Ino gazed at Sasuke and Hinata suspiciously, inferring even more conclusions. I just got some info on that green guy's team, said Sakura to Naruto as he stood nearby her. I got curious enough to ask about the Suna team that we saw bullying Konohamaru. It turns out the team consists of the Kazakuge's own children. Naruto's eyes widened in mild surprise at that piece of information. Sakura informed him further on both teams. It seems both would be strong contenders in this exam. The sister was 15 years old. Naruto was glad that she didn't act like Sasuke's typical fangirls, because a 15-year-old showing interest to a 12-year-old like that was just weird. Is there any other teams we should be aware of? Asked Sakura. Kabuto took out more cards from the deck but didn't put chakra to reveal them. There is this one team from the Village of Sound, began Kabuto, mulling over the information, but, well, they're a new village and only have one team participating in these exams, so they're not expected to do well. Well, Naruto was cut off as Kabuto was suddenly attacked by 3 people. He seemed to dodge the attacks, but then his glasses cracked. Naruto and the others had jumped as a result of the attack. His eyebrows shot upward in confusion, as it had seemed Kabuto successfully dodged the attack of the main offender. This brought on commotion from everybody in the room because of the wanton attack. Nobody gets away with speaking ill of our village, said the one in bandages. We of Sound shall showcase our might in this exam. What an idiot, thought Naruto speculatively. He's shown us his attack. Even if we don't know what it is, we know what to watch out for. Everybody quiet, hollered a voice. Otogakure team, pull a stunt like that again and you will be disqualified. Am I clear? After the presumed leader of the sound group gave his apologies, the proctor introduced himself as Morino Ibiki and ordered everyone to get into assigned seats as the other proctors shunshined into the room. The rules of the test were thoroughly explained and everybody was ordered to begin. Naruto stayed calm despite his initial nervousness about the paper exam. He had never been good at paper tests. It wasn't until Iruka that he had started doing well in them. His previous years before Iruka-sensei had been difficult. He barely managed to succeed in moving up a grade every year. He had sought out extracurricular help but the teachers either laughed him off or had him doing questions that he never understood. It had always made him feel inferior because the senseis in the past seemed to ignore his pleas. It wasn't until later that he understood that they never wanted to help him in the first place because of their biases. He had learned more on his own and through girl who became his girlfriend than in the academy. Naruto still wondered who the mysterious person who gave him jutsu scrolls was. He had learned Kage Bunshin and water techniques through some mysterious benefactor who left scrolls on his doorstep outside his apartment during his birthdays. He was never able to pick up on the chakra signature because the scrolls were summoned outside his apartment. He often wondered over the possibility it was his mother. Naruto sensed that Hinata had already recognized the true purpose of the test and activated her Byakugan. He sighed inwardly wishing he had a free and easy cheating method like a dujutsu. His mother's dujutsu would have been perfect for this situation. He knew Sasuke was smart enough to figure out the true purpose of the test and use his Sharingan. Sakura would be smart enough to do most, if not all, of the questions on her own. Naruto decided to read the questions and see which ones he could answer. He blinked and reread them again because he was sure that he was mistaken. He subtlety attempted to kai the genjutsu from the test because of the difficulty of the questions. Finally, he slumped back and stared at the test speechless. They're all questions that the senseis, before Iruka made me do when I asked for extracurricular help, he thought as he reached an epiphany, there isn't a genjutsu on this exam, they were setting me up for failure. I was robbed of a fair chance to learn. Naruto tried to bottle the overwhelming anger that he felt. He shouldn't hate, hate was bad. Hate brought about horrible tragedies like the deaths of those villagers when the Kyuubi had awakened from inside him. Being angry at Kakashi for being tardy, for example, was one thing, but the desire to kill shouldn't be allowed. He didn't need to give people more of a reason to shun him. Naruto took calming deep breaths as he attempted to rein in his newfound anger. He felt a headache begin to build. He calmly wrote down the answers. This test was a breeze for him because he had been forced to work on these questions at an early age. Once he was finished, he slouched in his seat and mulled over what he had just learned. He couldn't get it out of his mind. How often had he worked diligently to improve himself? How many hours had he wasted on extracurricular test taking in the academy? Even now, he bet that the Chunin proctors in this exam would take points off of him for simply breathing. Where did this leave him later on in his life? Would he be barred from pursuing a career in field because he was the demon fox? Naruto realized that the will of fire itself called for his death. He couldn't truly believe in Konoha's religion anymore if he considered it at face value. The ideals that he wanted to live by entailed consequences that directly harmed him. Normal people could ignore those unmentionable ideas because it didn't affect them. For him, that was not the case. God literally hated him according to ancient scripture. He had made sure to study it thoroughly at the Uchiha compound and was disgusted that his beliefs were so muddled by falsehoods. Then again, how many people actually fully read the religious books they claimed to live by? The proctor, Morino Ibiki, called for the end of the examination and proposed the 10th question to the genin. What? That's impossible, shouted the blonde Sand Kunoichi with the fan. How could you permanently stop people from other villages from becoming Chunin? That makes no sense. We've gained the signed permission of all village leaders of shinobi participating today to have this rule enacted, explained Ibiki. If you have qualms with this stipulation, then take it up with your Kage. This rule was agreed upon during the deliberation of how the Chunin exams would take place. The blonde stared at him gobsmacked at that answer. Everyone else was just as surprised. After several more minutes, shinobi teams continued to leave. Naruto sat passively waiting for the proctor to finish this portion. He wasn't about to quit now and disappoint his teammates. He had just taken the test and he felt ready to meet the final question. If those other teams were too afraid to try answering a simple question regardless of what was at stake, then tough shit for them. Besides, it was less competition to deal with for the rest of the exam. After what felt like an eternity of waiting, over half the people left. Finally, when it seemed like no more would leave, Ibiki congratulated them and explained the final question. Naruto couldn't help but snort and laugh at the irony. Naruto sat by the tree outside the forest of death. He had the permission slip already signed in his hand. He was well aware of the risks of death and felt they were worth undertaking. It was normal for the life of a shinobi. He looked up to see the Hyuga heiress standing a few feet away. Naruto cocked his head in a questioning pose to ask what she wanted. She tossed him a small object. He caught it in his free hand. Payment for the jutsu that you shared, explained Hinata in a clipped tone. I dislike the feeling of being indebted to someone, so consider this a one-time occurrence, understood? Whatever, said Naruto, shrugging his shoulders. He busied himself by rereading his potential death certificate for no particular reason. He needed a distraction. Hinata scowled and walked away. That interaction had infuriated her. After she left, Ino came up to Naruto and folded her arms. She scowled down at him. Naruto gazed up at Ino. Can I help you, Ino? Asked Naruto in confusion. Are you? She didn't really know how to finish. Are you dating Sakura? No, answered Naruto, slightly confused. Why are you asking? No particular reason, replied Ino evasively. She turned to leave. Well, good luck in the forest. You too. Naruto looked back at his paper. He sensed yet another chakra signature coming his way. Hello Naruto-kun, said Haku, reading over the death waiver. Sort of, I'm really just worried how I'll measure up against all these people, said Naruto, sharing his concerns. They all seem really strong and most are full of bloodline abilities. The red hair from Suna is a Jinchuriki like me too. Haku's eyes widened in surprise at that. He made a mental note to inform the Hokage once his current job was done. Are you here as one of the proctors? Asked Naruto, guessing why he was here. Haku chuckled at how accurate he was. Yes, I've become stuck with the dirty job of having to find corpses and remove them during the latter half of the exam, explained Haku with a hint of annoyance. He didn't like seeing death if he could avoid it. I'll be coming in with an assigned partner a few days after you. Have they told you who your partner will be? Asked Naruto, curious. They should at least give you a heads up before making you stay in there with someone else for a few days. Don't tell me it's the crazy purple-haired lady. No, said Haku, chuckling. He had a run-in with Anko already. It's a Junin. Naruto raised his eyebrow at that. Haku sighed as he realized how stupid that answer was. Of course it would be a Junin. I've been assigned with Uzumaki Karen. Naruto gave him a blank stare in response. Inwardly, the gears were turning in his head. This was not a fluke. The council had assigned Karen for a specific purpose in mind. Having experienced Junin instructors, work with newly instated foreign shinobi was not unusual. However, they were carefully handpicked. Usually the shinobi assigned could counteract whatever jutsus the foreign shinobi they were assigned with had. However, in cases such as a valuable bloodline, the highest bidding clan got to bribe the council into putting someone they approved of to interact with the shinobi so that they could convince them to join their clan. The Uzumaki clan had been quick to set their sights on Haku. Team 7 were at their assigned gate. The Heaven Scroll was neatly tucked onto Naruto's person. Sasuke had insisted that Naruto be the one to hold onto it for practical reasons. Naruto's sheer amount of Kage Bunshins meant he was the best suited for holding onto the Heaven Scroll. Naruto didn't try to argue that point when Sakura had backed Sasuke up by adding that Naruto had the most stamina. The gate lifted up. Team 7 charged into the forest. They began the plan they had worked on in preparation of entering the forest. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, said Naruto, henge. Hundreds of Narutos appeared and 2 of 3 of them changed into either Sasuke or Sakura. They proceeded to flee into the forest in groups. Naruto would gain all the knowledge from the fights his clones would have. His clones would be able to detect other people's chakra while it would be impossible for other teams, such as one with a Hyuga, to find his real team. We just got a scroll from some Rain Nin, said Naruto, informing them of the success, but it's a heaven scroll, so. He stopped suddenly on a branch and his team stopped too out of surprise. Sakura had nearly fallen off and she glared at Naruto demanding an explanation. A huge chakra signature is coming from behind us. Sasuke activated his Sharingan as Sakura gasped in surprise. They all swiftly turned around and felt an extraordinarily powerful gust of wind hit them. If they hadn't trained so well in chakra control, then they would have been blown clean off the tree branches. Naruto began forming seals as Sakura and Sasuke were barely holding on. The branch they were on looked ready to snap. Naruto's hands flew through the hand seals necessary and channeled a large amount of chakra. Futon. Daitapa Kai, yelled Naruto. The wind quickly reversed in its direction. The three gasped from being short of breath because of the ridiculously strong attack. It's that weird Kusa Kunoichi. She's the one attacking us. I don't know how, but she was able to mask her chakra. It's cage level. He said it in disbelief. How could a cage level shinobi be participating in an exam for Chunins? What? Screeched Sakura, horrified. What do you mean cage level? He's right, said Sasuke with his Sharingan blazing. I can just barely make out the chakra signature. It's getting closer at an insane pace. This crazy bitch is fucking cage level. We have to run. What the hell is a cage level shinobi doing in the Chunin selection exams? Thought Naruto as his panicked mind was swarming with hundreds of thoughts at once. Is this some assassination attempt on me or Sasuke? They prepared to make a break for it. Suddenly a giant snake erupted from the earth below and lunged at Naruto. In his state of shock, he did nothing as the snake swallowed him whole. All went black. A high-pitched scream could be heard in the distance. Naruto awoke later to find himself within the damn snake that had swallowed him. He was disgusted to find that he was within the snake's digestive system. He realized that after he had lost consciousness, his cage buncheons had all puffed out of existence. He had gained all the memories of their short travels through the forest of death. Fortunately, cage buncheon was only considered kinjutsu because most people lacked the stamina to create more than one clone. There were no memory pains from acquiring all the information that cage buncheons transmitted back to the user. He snapped into attention. His friends were probably fighting that insanely powerful Kusa Nin right now, or very likely dead. He couldn't afford to waste time right now. He needed to find them as quickly as possible. He began channeling chakra as he flew through the hand seals. Kaden. Ruka no Jutsu. Shouted Naruto, performing the jutsu that Sasuke taught him. He breathed in and blew out a strong wave of fire. Outside, the snake, sleeping happily within a tree top, suddenly shot up and screeched in pain. Flames burst straight out of its own body. A draconic fire roared as it flew into the sky. Naruto walked out sedately with his mouth still fueling the fire as the dragon swung back behind him and plummeted into the carcass of the snake. He didn't even bother turning around as a huge explosion of fire erupted behind him. His eyes remained fixed forward as the fire from his mouth finally died out. He breathed in and out to get oxygen back in his lungs. He had to perform that carefully. The fire was the most dangerous when it was closest to the user, and Naruto had to maneuver it in a way that it moved away from him after it burst out of the snake. He made sure to use the remaining fire to effectively kill the snake. He shunshined away seamlessly. He had perfected the art of shunshin to a degree in which he mastered the jutsu without needing seals. His intent was to get to his friends as fast as humanly possible. Their lives literally depended on it. I must say that I am quite impressed, said the Kusa Nin, gazing at them intently, to have fought so well. Orochimaru was absolutely pleased. Kabuto's information had been accurate as always. After he had taken the blonde out of the equation and made it appear that the boy had died, the two had fought their hardest against him. Initially, they had been terrified, but Sasuke swore revenge and the pink one seemed to gain courage too because of his words. Sasuke's Sharingan gained a tomo during the ensuing fight. It was now an even 2 in each eye. The two members of Team 7 had fought tooth and nail. The two were now exhausted on a random tree branch. Orochimaru had them both cornered. His summoned snake and jutsu repertoire had been more than a match for two genin. However, They had obviously been diligent in their training. They seemed to have a thirst for jutsu that rivaled Orochimaru's own. Yes, he was completely satisfied with Sasuke's performance. If the pink one had a bloodline, then he would put a curse seal on her as well. The snake appeared to lunge toward the two. Orochimaru simply planned to hop off and perform the jutsu necessary to give Sasuke the cursed seal. Suddenly, a fast-moving object from above struck the snake viciously. The snake reared back in pain and flicked the offending object off of itself. Naruto backflipped and landed in front of his team. 2 kunai could be seen embedded on the snake's nostrils. Naruto, shouted Sakura happily, "Thank God, you're alive." Sasuke looked utterly relieved too. Naruto smiled back at them briefly before focusing all his attention on the dangerous shinobi and summoned snake in front of him. He only used the Tora hand seal for his next jutsu. He had trained using this jutsu diligently. He made sure to surge extra chakra into it so the jutsu would be able to destroy the snake in front of him. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Orochimaru barely got out of the inferno that burned his snake to ashes. He had jumped high into another tree to view the damage. He stared in surprise before he realized that he was dealing with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and therefore the brat's chakra size was obviously much larger than the usual humans. He would deal with the boy's interference quickly and put the cursed seal upon Sasuke. Naruto made sure to burn every inch of this snake as well. Once he was finished, he began breathing harshly again. He had used a lot of chakra to get here as fast as he did and he hadn't been able to rest at all. He hadn't even thought of a good strategy to prepare because he felt so pressed for time. Barreling into a summoned snake with 2 kunai head first was what his plan had effectively amounted to. Orochimaru jumped down while Naruto was still taking a breather from having put too much chakra into that jutsu. Orochimaru swiftly punched Naruto in the stomach, causing Naruto to double over in pain, and used his tongue to immobilize Naruto. Naruto was completely disgusted by the tongue but couldn't break out of the hold. Orochimaru lifted Naruto off the ground, he opened the jacket, and lifted the boy's shirt from the bottom with his tongue to see the Shiki Fuin seal on Naruto's belly. He reared his hand back to perform the Gogyo Fuin. This would effectively seal the boy's chakra and cut off the Kyuubi half. Naruto struggled but it was ultimately futile. As Orochimaru was about to slam on the seal, Naruto's eyes opened wide and dark blue chakra flared from around his body. Orochimaru, in severe pain from the intensified heat, let his tongue slip off and backed away from Naruto out of shinobi instinct. Naruto looked at Orochimaru in confusion before turning to look behind him. Sasuke and Sakura gasped as they saw the silver dark purplish eyes of God. Uzumaki Naruto had reawakened the Rinnegan. The boy turned back to scrutinize Orochimaru. The dark blue chakra radiated around his body dangerously. It looked like dark blue fire was swarming all around the boy. Everyone in the vicinity could feel the powerful demonic chakra that Naruto's body was letting loose. Naruto's visage began to sneer at the Kusa-enin. "Are you really so fucking pathetic that you're picking on children?" "What?" replied a startled Orochimaru. "The nerve of this boy." He stood up straight and brought his tongue back into his mouth. He smirked at the blonde despite this new development. "I just happen to be very capable." "Capable? Is that what you call it? Attacking Genin during an exam makes you capable?" barked the eerie voice of the Rinnegan user as he began chuckling. Sasuke and Sakura got the distinct impression that this wasn't Naruto. "Stop with the shitty act, you stupid fucked up pedophile. How dare you, brat?" snarled Orochimaru, getting angry at that comment. So what if this boy suddenly had the legendary eyes of God? The boy was asking for a severe beating. "I'll show you a pedophile." In his rage, Orochimaru didn't understand just what he had blurted out. The Rinnegan user laughed uproariously at that comment. When Orochimaru was close enough, he prepared for another Gogyo Fuin. That would effectively knock the brat out so he could give the cursed seal to Sasuke and leave. Gravity seemed to be against Orochimaru's wishes because he was suddenly pushed back and thrown off the tree. His body soared through the forest for a little while before he hit a large tree trunk with a thud. He let out an aggravated growl. The Rinnegan user turned to look back at the other 2 members of Team 7 once more. They stared back fear. The fiery chakra was oozing killing intent and danger on a level above Orochimaru's. "Get the fuck outta here, demanded the demonic voice of Naruto, or else I won't guarantee your safety. Get me? Sasuke and Sakura looked frightened by that statement. They were already exhausted from fighting Orochimaru, and now this monster had taken control of Naruto. Who are you? Whispered Sakura, afraid. She was not just afraid for her safety but what was happening to Naruto. What have you done to Naruto? Who the hell are you to demand anything? Shouted the Rinnegan user sharply. Sakura and Sasuke flinched in fear. Now leave, you stupid weaklings. If you hurt him, I swear, Sasuke began but was cut off. Yeah, whiny dipshit threats. Get going, you dumbass weakling. Sasuke scowled before picking Sakura up bride style and leaving. The demon with the Rinnegan snorted before returning his head forward. 6 years since I was last in control of this body, thought the monster as the demonic chakra flared wildly around him, at least sealing the bloodline worked out for the better. After Sasuke left, Orochimaru appeared and looked livid. Half the freak's face was falling off. Brat, you have no idea who it is you're dealing with, hissed Orochimaru, ready to beat the shit out of the little fool. You're lucky I have use of you, otherwise you would be dead within a heartbeat. Really? Is that a threat? All I see is the bitching of a dumbass failure, replied the demonic Naruto cheekily. Let's look back on your accomplishments. Yeah. You became Sannin from getting bitch slapped by the legendary Hanzo. You managed to escape Konoha after the experimentations because your sensei pitied your pathetic ass, and your teammate was probably too chicken to deliver the finishing blow in this very forest. Everybody knows Jiraiya's stronger. You're not a snake, you're a cockroach. I assume you came here to give the Uchiha brat a hickey to further prove how much of a pedophile faggot you are. Seriously, as if having hidden laboratories full of experimented naked children had not been enough. I'll kill you, hollered Orochimaru enraged. You're dead, you fucking brat. Orochimaru ran at full pace toward the genin. There was no way that the genin could outpace him if he used his full speed. The Rinnegan user sighed, shrugged, and shook his head. People just don't like the truth, Orochimaru moved as rapidly as possible. The other half of his face fell off in his sprint. He aimed to kill in his enraged state of mind. Chibaku Tensai, muttered the demonic voice. Orochimaru was hoisted up into the air helplessly. Rocks, tree branches, and leaves started colliding with him. Holy fuck, you're absolutely pathetic. How the fuck do you fall for the same trick twice? I guess Sannin is just another word for shithead. Wow, this is embarrassing. Why am I even wasting my time on a pathetic sack of crap like you? Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He channeled chakra without hand seals and summoned 30 Kage Bunshin. They launched themselves toward Orochimaru and were pulled in by the gravity. Orochimaru couldn't move at all because of the gravity immobilizing his body. Why, you damn demon? Go fuck yourself, pedo freak, replied the Rinnegan user bored. He made the proper hand seal. Bunshin Daibakua. Orochimaru's eyes widened as the 30 clones all shined brightly. They deactivated and caused a massive explosion that blew the tops of trees in the surrounding area clean off. The trees nearby became charred husks with very little remaining. The demonic Rinnegan Naruto had used a mixture of chakra propulsion and Shunshin no Jutsu to escape the blast. Sasuke had distanced himself as much as possible from the two horrifying monsters that were battling it out. He had reached the outskirts of the blasting zone a few minutes before the immense explosion happened. He laid Sakura on the grass and fell over himself. He breathed in and out harshly from all the strenuous activity that he had endured. Get up, Uchiha, and stop being so fucking pathetic, spoke the voice. Brought a colder chill down his spine than the memories of Itachi. Sasuke turned to his left to see the demonic Naruto standing there. I have a question for you and I demand an answer or else I will kill you right here. Sasuke sluggishly got up and faced the Rinnegan user. Sakura attempted to get up as well but fell over in pain. Let go of Naruto, Kyuubi, snarled Sasuke angrily. The stress of everything that happened was getting to him. If you don't, I swear I'll find a way to make you pay for using my friend as a puppet. Oh, intriguing, replied the demon showing mild interest. Now then, as for my question. Suddenly Orochimaru in his real appearance showed up. He had shed the Kusa Kunoichi's body to regenerate from the attack that he had suffered. He stood a few yards away behind and slightly to the right of where Naruto was standing. There was an audible sigh from the Rinnegan user. You goddamn demon brat. shouted Orochimaru infuriated. The fucking dipshit didn't know when to quit. Prepare to die. I'll torture you in the worst ways that you could possibly imagine. They won't recognize the body when I'm through with you. I, Orochimaru of the Sannin, will fucking kill you. Oh Orochimaru of the Sannin! Shrieked a frightened Sakura. Sasuke's eyes widened in horrified fright too. The Rinnegan user muttered curses under his breath. Oh god, who will save us? We're doomed. We were no match for an S-rank criminal. Sakura was awash with horrified thoughts of what Orochimaru was planning to do to them. The disgusting human experiments he conducted for years were well documented and very well known. Orochimaru was the equivalent of the boogeyman for almost all shinobi of Konoha. His accomplishments as a Sannin marked him as someone who rivaled the Hokage. He's after my eyes, whispered a terrified Sasuke. Why else had Orochimaru specifically targeted him? Oh god, is he going to use me for one of his sick experiments? No. Pay attention and answer my fucking question. Bellowed the Rinnegan Naruto, startling Sasuke and Sakura. That shithead is irrelevant. You shouldn't fear crazy people. More often than not they're the biggest fucking cowards. You children actually fear this sorry excuse for a life form. The blonde emphasized his point by moving his left hand in the direction of Orochimaru. He didn't turn his full body around. This dumbass is so fucking cowardly that he waited until the Sandaime Hokage became senile before showing up in Konoha again, said the Rinnegan user as demonic chakra swirled around Naruto's body once more. People fear this leech. What the fuck have you all come to? Next thing you'll tell me is children now fear the dark. Orochimaru snarled as he took out Kusanagi to prepare to eviscerate the impudent whelp to pieces. Naruto's left hand became more straightened as the palm was outstretched exactly where Orochimaru was. The Rinnegan user still hadn't bothered to turn around. Chakra Bakuhatsu. A tremendous blinding light erupted from his palm and scorched through the air straight into Orochimaru. It shot straight through the Sannin and kept going in the general direction of the surrounding forest. The gargantuan destructive light burned through miles of the forest of death in the direction it was projected. Sakura and Sasuke dived to the floor from the immense gust of wind that the attack had caused. When both woozily got up to their feet again they surveyed the destruction. A large crater traveled for miles away. It was farther than the eye could see. They could hear some of the roaring fire in the distance. Orochimaru was nowhere to be found. The scariest part was that this unbelievably destructive ninjutsu had not made a single sound. It far surpassed the Bunshin clone explosion from earlier by a long stretch. However, it had only caused a gust of wind to surge forth and the surviving forestation to be set on fire. As I was saying, my question for you Uchiha, Sasuke stared dumbly at the destruction before turning to face the powerful monster in front of him. If you had to choose between killing your brother or saving Naruto and Sakura, which would you pick? This is under the stipulation that you could never ever achieve the choice that you don't choose. Sasuke blinked as he seriously considered that question. Sakura sat on the ground tiredly not knowing what to say. Sasuke stared back at the Rinnegan user with his Sharingan blaring. I would save my friends, Sasuke answered honestly. I refuse to lose any more people in my life if I can help it. The Rinnegan user chuckled at that response. This tied together nicely. Sasuke gained an extra tomo in each Sharingan eye. That made 3 tomos in each eye. He was now fully capable of using all his dojutsu's abilities. It seems his resolve allowed him to unlock all his bloodline abilities, thought the demon. All that's left is the boy. Kyuubi no Yoko, release Naruto from your grasp, demanded Sasuke positing. Sasuke was forcing himself to keep his body upright. He doesn't deserve to have his body taken control over by a monster like you. And how do you intend to stop me from doing that? Proposed the demon snorting. It doesn't matter. This weak-ass body is already at its limit. I'd rather not accidentally kill the sissy. The dark blue fiery chakra dissipated, the Rinnegan eyes changed back to Naruto's normal blue ones, and Naruto fell backward unconscious. Sasuke's body sagged in relief before falling sideways unconscious. Sakura stared in misery at the mess before her. Sakura couldn't help being utterly terrified. Their lives literally depended on her capabilities as a kunoichi now. Hour of darkness. Within the forest of death, 2 young shinobi waited by one of the opening gates. They sat on different tree branches parallel to each other nearby the gate. Haku wore his hair down while in a standard Junin outfit. Uzumaki Karen had her spiky shoulder-length light red hair down too. She wore glasses and had the same standard Junin outfit. At nightfall, they would attempt to locate and bring back any dead bodies so that shinobi from other villages could confirm the deaths of their genin. The genin usually slept at night, so there was very little chance of being attacked. Typically, Junin could skillfully avoid being detected from most genin, and they were given the stipulation of not attacking any Junin on purpose if they came to recover dead bodies under the threat of disqualification on their papers. The genin understood that Junin were only allowed to enter at night unless there was an emergency. Arguably, it was best to do this after the exam, but that ran the risk of animals eating the carcasses of the dead genin. That would result in no certain means to confirm the deaths because genin could simply be lost in the forest. It wasn't an effective system by any means, but it was the best they could do under the circumstances. This is annoying, thought Haku, trying not to roll his eyes. How can she talk about a clan so much? From the start of their joint task together, Uzumaki Karen had done nothing but continue to boast of the Uzumaki clan's superior merits compared to all other clans in Konoha. She had attempted to give a poignant speech about how the Uzumaki would wholeheartedly understand his harsh life because the older generation was full of persecuted members from Karigakura, how they were all a family of sorts. How extraordinarily wealthy he would be when joining the clan to do missions for the fire daimyo and the clan head, how good it would be for the younger generation to hear of his tales of heroism surviving within Karigakura, and how there would be a mutual benefit with him learning new shinobi arts while they had a position for him already as one of their Junin assassins to work directly for the fire daimyo with a hefty paycheck. Needless to say, Haku was utterly tired of it. He wanted her to stop boasting about the Uzumaki clan already. What can I say to distract her? Thought Haku carefully. Please stop spewing your propaganda gibberish. Just please stop, seems better, but I have a question, spoke up Haku, trying to change the subject, about the Uzumaki clan. Yes, Haku-san, answered Karen, smiling brightly. Feel free to ask any questions about us. I'll be happy to answer to the best of my knowledge. It's about your brother, began Haku somewhat hesitantly. Karen's face showed mild surprise before hardening. I'll be blunt. Why did your clan abandon Naruto? He was 6 years old. How could they just leave a child like that? Uzumaki Naruto was, Karen began. She went silent and frowned at him before continuing in a stoic voice. Uzumaki Naruto didn't blend well with the rest of the clan. We believe in a strong sense of family, however, the criteria of training we had for our younger generation is taxing to their body. Allow me to explain in proper detail. Uzumaki Naruto wasn't born with a bloodline, so he wouldn't have been able to adjust or properly handle any of the rigorous training. At the time, the lands we owned in Konoha weren't meeting clan needs. They were made as temporary refugee shelters, but many had already adjusted to being Konohagakure citizens. The clan wanted to live in better conditions. Our clan head, Kushina-sama, decided to sell off the refugee land and settle the clan within the daimyo's palace. It suited our needs much better. We had enough space to house all our members, we had proper food to eat, and it fit better to our standards as a distinguished clan. We could properly hone our skills and work to make our clan flourish under the daimyo. It was the perfect opportunity to show our clan's strengths to gain our much-deserved respect instead of being viewed the same as the poor and destitute. Karen paused for a moment. Haku assumed that she was gathering her thoughts. Uzumaki Naruto was left in Sandaime-sama care as a consequence of this intricate decision. If Uzumaki Naruto was somehow treated poorly, then I am sorry to say it was due to Sandaime-sama's negligence. However, none can blame Sandaime-sama because he has the entire village's domestic and military affairs to take care of. As such, Uzumaki Naruto was a misfortunate fallout. Surely, the needs of Konohagakure no Sato is more important than the happiness of one boy. That was a sophisticated way to say that they didn't give a damn about him, thought Haku, annoyed. These people are deplorable. They obviously just want me for my bloodline limit and they're trying to bribe me for my agreement. That's horrible, said Haku, uncharacteristically blunt. He didn't feel like being nice about this issue. Your clan was too busy trying to gain wealth and to be viewed worthier that they didn't concern themselves with an innocent young boy. Do you really expect me to believe this circular logic? It's more likely that he couldn't be of use to the clan, so they abandoned him. Based on your words, it seems they were too concerned about appearances, so they threw him out. However, even then, I can postulate that it was due to irrational fear of a second Yagiri Yagura and the strict adherence to the archaic ideals of the wills. They allowed their own biases to overcome them instead of caring about a 6-year-old boy. Karen scowled at him. Haku didn't care in the slightest. He could sense her heightened chakra. It was a telling sign that a person was getting upset. You are viewing the facts from a narrow perspective, Haku-san, said Karen coolly. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one boy. It is a shame what happened, but there was nothing that anybody could have done. Sandaime-sama had to put Konoha's interest. The Sandaime Hokage shouldn't be insinuated to have any fault in the matter, said Haku, interrupting Karen. I don't care what your mother had to deal with regarding clan politics. It's no excuse for her negligence as a parent. Her first priority should always have been the welfare of her children. It is her fault that Naruto suffered for the last 6 years. Excuse me, said Karen, raising an eyebrow. It seemed that she was trying to keep her anger in check with a cool facade. Who are you to speak so boldly of my clan head? That is entirely disrespectful, and it shows that you lack maturity. All leaders must make tough decisions at times. I understand your feelings, but that is no reason to hurl baseless accusations upon someone, especially not a hard-working leader who has graciously offered an esteemed position to you. No, you understand nothing, said Haku, scowling back at her and ridding himself of all pretense of civility. Abandoning a child because they don't fit standards is the same type of insanity that led to the bloodline purges. You tell me that your clan left Naruto because he didn't fit your criteria. That's no different than when my own father attempted to kill me because I wasn't normal by the standards of Kirigakura's society. I was left alone in the world for virtually the same ideological thinking that Naruto was. Frankly, you people disgust me. Very well, I shall notify my clan of your decline of our offer and your disingenuous assertions, replied Karen icily. She turned to face the other way. It is a shame that you have allowed your biases to cloud your thoughts on such a lifetime offer. Perhaps, if you show forgiveness in the future, the opportunity may reopen itself to you. Bias. Is that really what you're calling it? Questioned Haku with a hint of annoyance. This is your own brother that we're speaking of. How can you not be concerned about his well-being? Do you think the same way as the villagers? That he's some sort of monster? Karen appeared to be rubbing her head. She refused to look at Haku or address his persistent inquisitions. Do you even care about his suffering? He tries to hide it, but I can tell that he's still affected. His self-worth certainly never recovered. He's afraid of asking too much of people for fear of being abandoned again, and it's not even the clan that he wants to go back to. That's a pretense to hide his real pain. He wants his mother. He's a 12-year-old boy who wants his mother to be a part of his life. How can you? Shut up, shouted Karen angrily. She was furiously rubbing her head. Just shut up already. I don't want to hear another word. Stop talking. Haku quieted at those words. An uncomfortable silence hung over both of them. Karen slouched onto her thick tree branch but refused to look at him. Haku sat on his tree branch and looked the other way. He tried to find something to distract him. The silence loomed on for several minutes. Haku was frustrated because he had nothing to do and his mind kept wandering to the stupid conversation that he just had with the only other person in the vicinity. How is he doing? She asked, breaking the long silence. What? Asked Haku, turning to face her. He wondered if he had heard that question correctly. However, any further discussion was interrupted when someone from above made their presence known. You too, shouted the lead proctor of the Chunin exams. There has been an emergency. All Junins monitoring the exams are to be on the manhunt for Orochimaru of the Sannin. He has infiltrated the Chunin exams under the guise of a Kusanin. 1/8 of the Forest of Death has been confirmed to be destroyed. We do not know what his objectives are, but he has already killed 4 genin teams from that attack alone. It is imperative that we find and stop him immediately. Search sections C through E of the forest and report back to me if you find anything suspicious. If you find Orochimaru, then engage him. We cannot afford to wait for backup or coordinate an effective measure of attack. This is likely a suicide mission, but we must take him down. He has already caused wanton destruction. So get your asses moving now. Anko swiftly shunshined away. Haku and Karen shunshined to their designated area to search for the traitorous S-rank shinobi. Both masked the fear they held. If either of them found Orochimaru, then they weren't likely to survive. You're pathetic, snarled the younger Naruto to the older one. One punch from that pedophile knocked you unconscious. Naruto stared back angrily at the younger version of himself. Look at how feeble you are without me, continued the miniature version, foregoing all pretense of being Naruto. You want to know what I find really pathetic? The fact you continue to desire the love of a mother that you know doesn't give a fuck about you. The fact that you mope about a clan that doesn't give a fuck about you. The fact that you deny your true feelings and don't let loose your anger. I'm not like that, yelled back Naruto in defiance. I refuse to cause senseless death and destruction like you monster. I'm not talking about that, you idiot, shouted the younger Naruto, causing the older Naruto to skid as he was momentarily pushed back by a wave of demonic transcendent chakra. Anger is not synonymous with destruction. Where is that anger you showed me during your training in Wave Country? Why did you let that dipshit dog talk to you like that? Why did you look away from those three shitheads of the clan instead of glaring back? Why the fuck are you such a PU? Why? Here's a fun fact, dumbass. Once you allow your anger to surface, you'll be guarded against further insults. Those worthless sacks of shit won't ever see you as an equal no matter what you do, but you will see yourself as an equal to them. That is what is most important. That is what it means to show anger. People, no matter who or what they are, get angry because they are not being acknowledged on a level they deem sufficient. And you deny not just this, but your true motivation. What are you talking about? Asked Naruto with a hint of surprise and nervousness. I just haven't found a motivation yet. I don't have a purpose. I wanted my family back, but it's pointless. I don't want anything. Bull motherfucking shit, said the younger Naruto, snorting at him in disdain. That is not your first thought when you think of that shitty excuse for a family. You want to curse them out. To fight back. To show them that you don't need them. Remember what your goal became when they left. What you still desire but foolishly deny because you became afraid after the incident when you were nearly killed. You still seek that goal. You wish for that, but you lie to yourself and deny your true feelings. You know it's the truth. Shut up. You don't know anything about me. Snarled Naruto, getting angry at the demon before him. You're the one who belittled me for 6 years ever since you showed up after making me kill those villagers. Fuck off, Kyuubi. That's because you're weak. You never tried to fight back when I insulted you. I had to save your stupid ass from those villagers 6 years ago. Bit back the young Naruto. If not for me, then you would have died from chakra exhaustion because your body was too fucking weak to deal with demonic chakra at the time. That's why I had to seal it in your bloodline. It would have killed you. I saved your worthless life. White fiery chakra flared around the young Naruto. Immeasurable demonic power could be felt radiating from the young boy. Naruto stared in shock at his younger counterpart. The younger Naruto closed his eyes and slowly reopened them to reveal the Rinnegan. I'm going to make you stronger. Your potential will be reached. It would be too much of a pitiful waste not to. Your bloodline limit is no longer sealed. Allow me to show you how to effectively wield your dojutsu. I'll repeat this lesson until it is engraved into that feeble brain of yours. I don't need your. Naruto began to shout but suddenly found himself without a voice. He stared at the demon before him in rage. He tried to shout once more but no words came out. First, a little history lesson about the Rinnegan, began the ancient demon. Naruto glared but wisely chose to listen. Much like the Sharingan, there are different types. The Rinnegan itself has 2 different types. They have been called many things throughout ancient history by a bunch of witless idiots. Many clans refer to their bloodlines in seraphic terms to worship themselves. So basically, the Rinnegan has a heaven type and a hell type. It's the most ancient of all bloodlines, so its differences are very slight. The heaven type can give life to a particular inanimate object under special conditions, and it awakens within someone who is true to themselves at an early age. The hell type doesn't have this. It's a bit darker in color than the heaven type, and it awakens if the person has denied their true feelings at an early age. In other words, it's what you have. Your ability as a hell type is to expel the soul of a weak-willed individual from the body. This won't work on shinobi because they strive to be strong. This ability can only work in special conditions too, and anyone with a strong will or a honed body can't be affected by soul removal at all. It's pretty worthless in actual combat. As you may have figured out already, just like the Sharingan, all natural-born Rinnegan users can activate and deactivate their bloodline. With that behind us, let's begin the practical lesson. Pay attention, weakling. This is the gravitational pulling force. Bansho Tenin, spoke the demonic voice of the younger Naruto. Naruto was forcefully pulled towards the younger version of himself. This is the pushing gravitational force, Shinra Tensei. Naruto was blasted far away and collided painfully with the floor before he was able to gather his bearings. He looked up to see the younger Naruto right in front of him. The young boy didn't seem to be making any effort on his part while using these devastating techniques. What you just missed was me using chakra propulsion to move in a singular direction at a rapid pace. I cannot show you soul removal or Fujutsu Kyuin because the latter relies on the enemy's chakra attack being repelled back at them. The only thing left is. Naruto's eyes widened in fear as the miniature version held his palm in a rigid fashion right in front of Naruto. Naruto had seen everything that the monster in front of him had done in the fight against the snake Sannin. He knew what this jutsu would do to him. Why? Whispered Naruto quietly before taking on an enraged visage. His voice finally worked once more. Why are you doing this? Because, you little shit, I want a strong container. Replied the Rinnegan user matter-of-factly, I cannot afford for you to be weak. That's it, screamed Naruto in shocked rage, that's your only reason. Goodbye for now, you pathetic brat, answered the miniature Naruto with a smirk, don't worry, we'll see each other again. I'll probably be saving your ass from something. Chakra Bakuhatsu. Naruto screamed as searing pain coursed through him due to the horrifying attack. Orochimaru was utterly pissed off. His plan had seemed so simple and perfect in hindsight. Infiltrate an exam that's primarily for children inducted into the military, find Uchiha Sasuke to give him the curse seal with proper motivation to seek him out, and leave to continue his plans for Konoha's invasion. Instead, one little brat and his Biju had ended all of that. He had anticipated that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be a minor annoyance because the records of Sasuke's team had shown that Uzumaki Naruto was a poor student with very little skill. That had clearly been a lie. The boy had somehow mastered a strong C-rank Uchiha Jutsu and used it effectively to destroy his summon. Orochimaru hadn't been surprised that the boy had escaped or destroyed his first snake but to kill a summon with one jutsu alone. That took adept training. Orochimaru had been so surprised by that turn of events that he had only thought to jump away from the raging inferno. Orochimaru had knocked the boy out with one precise punch to the sternum and began preparations to put the Gogyo Fuin on the brat, but then the demon within him had awakened. All reports submitted by Jiraiya and his sensei to the council after the incident with the dead villagers 6 years ago indicated that the Shiki Fujin would only leak small bursts of the demon's chakra into the boy's chakra pathways. It would just give him some stronger chakra and wouldn't awaken the beast within him. That had to be a mistake. The beast had clearly awakened from within the boy's subconscious, and it had used the most mythical of bloodlines to overpower a Sannin-level shinobi. Orochimaru hated what he had witnessed and fought against. He considered himself a man of science and didn't believe in religious fairy tales. To have been beaten by a myth such as the Rinnegan was a personal insult to everything he stood for. Clearly, there was more truth to those religious beliefs than what met the eye. What confused him, however, were Kyuubi's apt knowledge of the Rinnegan's techniques and its thorough knowledge of Orochimaru's past. How could a demon that had been sealed into a boy for 12 years know events of the snake Sannin's life? Orochimaru decided to do more research on Yagiri Yagura's religious philosophy. Perhaps it wasn't completely batshit crazy as every other major village had first assumed. This brought up Orochimaru's current predicament. By a mere fluke, he had survived that ludicrously powerful chakra blast. His white snake regeneration had miraculously kicked in when he was seconds away from permanent death. He was able to regenerate enough to be in corporeal human form, but it had taken an immense amount of his reserves to do it. Orochimaru acknowledged at this moment in his fight against his former pupil Mitarashi Anko that he could very well die. His abilities were weakened enough that he was barely managing to keep up with Anko's attacks. However, that was nothing to worry about. Anko's own inner demons and self-hate were strong enough that a master of manipulation such as Orochimaru could easily create the perception that he was in full control. Anko had attacked him while slinging accusations of what he had done to 1/8 of the Forest of Death. They mistakenly presumed that Orochimaru had been the cause of what the demonic Rinnegan wielder had done. Orochimaru took credit to instill fear into Anko to remind her of just who she was up against. He acted as if it were all a mere game to him. It was all going smoothly. Orochimaru turned around to leave after a tactful threat about what he would do if Konoha cancelled the Chunin exams. He had used a significant amount of the small reserves he had left to put her in a paralyzing jutsu. It was all going perfectly. He would have ample time to recover once he left and finally got back to Otogakure. That was when a foil came to ruin his masterful presentation. Haku and Karen dropped down in front of a kneeling Anko to face Orochimaru. Orochimaru, assuming it was too typical Junin, didn't turn to face them. "Do you really think that the two of you have a chance against a Sannin?" said Orochimaru condescendingly. "If you value your lives, then take the intelligent route and don't bother with meaningless attempts to stop me. And let you continue your deranged experiments on innocent children along with your mad quest to destroy my new home," replied Haku smoothly. "I'd rather die than let any more monsters like you go on damaging others." Haku ran at Orochimaru. Orochimaru deftly turned around and threw a right hook at Haku. Haku caught the arm at the wrist in a vice-like grip. Orochimaru snarled as he looked down at the young boy in front of him. "What's this? Has Konoha become so weak in my absence that they give Junin positions away to anybody?" mocked Orochimaru as his anger began to seep out. He had to get out of here quickly before the situation got worse. "Let go, you stupid brat, and I may spare you from any torture." Haku's eyes narrowed as his grip tightened. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he felt his arm grow numb. Horrible pain began shooting through his right arm. Haku's grip only tightened before he began tugging harshly. Orochimaru attempted to pull his arm back to force the boy to let go. There was a brief struggle and then an awful crackling sound could be heard. Orochimaru stared dumbly as his arm was torn off completely. He looked to see the black-haired boy holding his lifeless arm encased in red crystal ice chunks from the inside. Haku had manipulated the blood of Orochimaru's arm to change into crystal ice. Haku had hoped to hold on and finish turning Orochimaru's blood to ice so that he could kill the Sannin before the man was any wiser to what was happening. Orochimaru had incorrectly assumed the boy was using temporary paralysis jutsu to cause the painful numbness. He realized that the boy had come frighteningly close to killing him after his right arm had literally come off. Haku crystallized the entire arm and then fully tightened his hold onto it. It was shattered to pieces. Orochimaru could no longer use the stump of an arm for any sort of regeneration trick. Haku had set his sights to murder the Sannin right there. Haku hated killing people, but he distinguished loathsome creatures such as the monster before him, Yagiri Yagura, and the ancient Nadaime Mizukage as inhumane. One could argue this philosophy was hypocritical. Haku didn't believe so. After all, if you let a monster like Orochimaru go, then how many innocent people have you condemned to his madness? How many people will Orochimaru go on killing because Haku hadn't tried to stop him? If Haku had known that Sarutobi Hiruzen had let Orochimaru escape after Sarutobi discovered the abominable experiments that Orochimaru conducted on innocent children, then Haku would have ceased respecting the man as the Hokage. In Haku's mind, allowing people who have done such despicable acts escape was the same as condoning it. Haku aimed to kill Orochimaru. There was no arguing that point. This fucker had to die. Karen gaped in awe at the sight before her. Anko looked confused by the turn of events. Karen quickly concentrated to provide backup. Orochimaru was in a severely weakened state and she could sense that now. Orochimaru could no longer mask his chakra from her hereditary Uzumaki sensor ability. Karen summoned an immense amount of chakra to use her bloodline limit. A sickly enormous black hand erupted from the ground and charged itself at Orochimaru. Orochimaru gave an aggravated shout and used his left hand to make a kai symbol to banish away the genjutsu. To his surprise, the genjutsu physically wrapped its fingers around his body tightly and slammed him up against the tree behind him. Orochimaru looked to see who had created the jutsu and cursed under his breath. The stupid Uzumaki prodigy. thought Orochimaru angrily as he was being beaten by children for the second time that day. Her bloodline makes genjutsus real. Fuck. 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 The supposedly extinct Hyouten bloodline and the extraordinarily rare Kurama bloodline. Of all the fucking odds, this complicates my escape. I need to distract them to get myself out of here safely. I swear once my invasion plans begin I'm going to make Sensei pay for this. Two perfectly good bloodlines and I'm too weak to use the cursed seal on either of them. Orochimaru opened his mouth to reveal the snake appendage which jutted out Kusanagi. Orochimaru directed his head sharply downward toward the black substance so Kusanagi would tear through the life-like genjutsu. He proceeded to move his head right and left rapidly to continue tearing away at it. The substance completely broke apart and the tree bark that had been manipulated into the odd substance had fallen back into its real form. Haku had unfastened a scroll at this time and threw it in the air above Orochimaru where it unsealed a pool of water. Haku slammed his foot on the large tree branch to change the glob of water into his crystal ice Senbon attack. Hundreds of ice needles impaled Orochimaru's unprotected body. Orochimaru gave out a deranged howl at being hit by such a rookie technique. He would have easily avoided the attack if he had been at even half strength. Haku rapidly spun in a circle to take out another scroll filled with water and unleash its contents. The water changed its shape into a dragon's head because of Haku's half-seal with his other hand and the jutsu flew at Orochimaru in rapid succession. Not a single motion was lost during Haku's fast-paced attack. Karen got down on her knees and slammed her hands onto the thick tree branch to concentrate her next attack better. Karen used the bark from the bottom of the large tree branch to change shape into sharp long black blades. They came upwards while still connected to the bottom of the tree and flew at Orochimaru in a swift pace behind the ice dragon head. Orochimaru spun on his heel and cut the ice dragon head at a 45-degree angle using the sword from his mouth. The two ice chunks flew behind him harmlessly. He was unable to avoid the black blades and was impaled onto the trunk of the tree behind him. He let out a shriek of rage and frustration. In an act of desperation, he moved his head upwards so the snake appendage swallowed some of Kusanagi back into its body and then he hastily moved his neck down so the snake spat out the sword straight at Haku and Karen. Karen stared in terrified shock as Kusanagi, the legendary blade that could tear through any physical material, was flung straight toward her at a fierce speed. It was moving so fast that she wouldn't be able to get out of the way. Haku acted without thinking. He ran toward her as fast as possible and speared her out of harm's way. The spear motion pushed both of them off the thick tree branch. They flew down to the ground in a state of panic. Haku and Karen toppled onto another thick tree branch far below the one they fought Orochimaru. Haku landed on top of Karen harshly and it knocked the wind out of her. Unfortunately, Haku had forgotten something important. A sick squelching sound of metal tearing through flesh could be heard from above. Haku got off of Karen and helped her up. They both ran up the tree hoping the damage wasn't bad. They didn't pay attention to the embarrassing circumstances regarding the landing. Such trivialities were common in a life and death battle of shinobi. There was no time for awkwardness in such a struggle. Once they got back up, Haku felt a drop of self-loathing and despair at the pit of his very heart. Orochimaru was gone. He had obviously taken the opportunity to escape. The bark from the genjutsu lay on the ground where he was last seen by the two of them. That's not why Haku was in despair. Haku was in despair because the Kusanagi blade that he had saved Karen from was lodged right between the bosoms of Materashi Anko. The sword had lodged itself onto the tree trunk behind Anko and forced her body to be stuck onto it. Her chest was bleeding profusely and she was coughing up blood in large quantities. Both teens kneeled before the Chunin proctor. Materashi-san, I'm so sorry. Haku quieted, he didn't know what to say. Anko peered at him as she continued to cough blood. Karen stayed quiet. She was just as lost about what to do regarding this circumstance. Anko was going to die before she could ever get medical help. Nothing short of Hiraishin no Jutsu could get her to the hospital quickly enough and only a medical genius like Tsunade could cure an injury such as this. Shunshin took time for most people and moving Anko with it would likely result in her instant death. F for what? Said Anko in between coughs of blood, this. This isn't. She let out a string of hacked coughs. It was clear that she wasn't going to survive. Anko-san, hang in there, said Karen, suddenly speaking up. She tried to instill words of confidence. She rubbed her own head in discomfort. We can save you. We'll rush to the hospital and. Don't bother, kiddo. We all know I'm done. There's no use in lying to ourselves, said Anko, managing to bite that out before more hacked coughs. Listen, I want a favor. Think of it as fulfilling my last wishes. Please. Anko-san, we can get you to a hospital if. Haku was interrupted from his desperate argument. No, listen, Anko let out more hacked coughs before her head drooped and her body stilled. Haku felt like shit. He couldn't even fulfill this woman's last wishes because he had felt so guilty of the circumstances that led to her death. He would never know what she had wanted. Suddenly, Anko's arm gripped the hilt of Kusanagi and she pulled it out of herself and the tree trunk. The two Junin got up in surprise as Anko raised herself up despite the impossible odds. She looked at them both and gave a smirk even as her mouth and body was caked in her own blood. She tossed the Kusanagi to Haku, who caught it. Anko held herself steady using the tree trunk behind her for support with her right hand. I want one of you to take the SNSN snake summoning contract from my trench coat and sign it, spoke Anko forcefully. I always had it with me, so did that Oro that fucker wouldn't be able to steal it. I'm pretty sure that he made a deal with the snake summons for another contract for his own use. Saint still have the original and I was hoping to pass it on to someone before I died. So please, could you both sign it? The last few statements were a shout and it became apparent that Anko was barely hanging on there. Karen looked at her sadly. I'm sorry, Anko-san, replied Karen remorsefully. I've already signed a blood contract with my clan's family summon. As you know, if a person signs a blood contract with another animal summoning, then they will immediately die. Humans can only contract with one summon in their lifetime as per the stipulations of all summoning contracts. Hard, and you boy? Asked Anko, turning to Haku with a bloody smile. She was trying to mask her emotional pain. Let me guess, some ancient family clan, right? Not at all, said Haku, shaking his head. I'll gladly do you this honor. I'm sorry for my negligence. I'm clearly unfit to be a Junin. Allow me to make amends by fulfilling your last wishes. Anko grinned wickedly at that response. The blood dripping all over her body made her appear positively sinister. She seemed to look at Haku with approval. Kid, you got more balls than most other Junin I know, said Anko, looking directly at Haku. She had coughed up a large amount of blood while praising Haku. Not many would go against that fuckface fearlessly with the intent to kill him. You earned a Junin spot in my book. Girly, please get the scroll from my trench coat and have this ballsy man sign it in blood. Karen snooped through the woman's trench coat and took out the scroll that Anko indicated. She unraveled it and laid it before Haku. Haku kneeled down, placed Kusanagi on the ground beside him, and bit his thumb before writing his name down under the designated area it specified to write a signature. Haku didn't have a last name, so he hoped that his first name would be enough. The words of blood slowly turned into black ink and moved upward to the list of other summoners, who had signed the snake contract. Anko smiled in approval and happiness. Haku smiled back for having successfully fulfilled Anko's wishes. Haku grabbed Kusanagi with his non-bloodied hand and raised himself back up. Kid, said the strangled voice of Anko, causing Haku to look at her, do me one last favor, both of you, don't blame yourselves for my death. What happened? It was bound to happen. I just knew something like this would happen for a long time now. It was fate. Anko immediately fell flat on her face after those words were uttered. The blood loss and gaping hole was too much for her to handle. Her body finally stilled. Haku and Karen stared sadly at the fresh corpse in front of them. Suddenly, Karen clutched her head in pain. Haku panicked. What's wrong? Asked Haku, alarmed. Are you alright? Shut up, screeched Karen, causing Haku to flinch in surprise. I'm not. It doesn't matter. Haku got the distinct feeling that Karen was not talking to him. Karen's chakra flared dangerously before stopping just as suddenly. Her body fell backwards unconscious. Haku stared dumbly in a brief sense of detachment at the scenario around him. He looked at the blade of Kusanagi still in his hand. I need to get help fast. Haku concentrated on the amount of chakra he wanted before slamming his bloody hand onto the tree branch he stood on. Kuchio's no Jutsu. Tales of Verses. It was the night after Orochimaru attacked Team 7. Sakura was exhausted. After the confrontation with the snake Sanin that day, she had been forced to drag both Sasuke and Naruto's unconscious forms into hiding. She had carefully laid traps around the area of the small cavern-like tree they were hiding inside. After assessing the situation, she decided to add deadlier traps to make sure that she would have more time to form a strategy as a counter-attack. The traps that she set up were devastatingly brutal and would kill any unsuspecting genin team that came by. It was the best that she could do. She couldn't honestly care to factor in the opposing team's safety in a situation like this. Death was likely unavoidable if a confrontation were to occur. Killing the opponent would be quicker than immobilizing them. Sakura understood now that she needed to get rid of her idealism and embrace the way of shinobi if she was going to make it anywhere as a kunoichi. She wanted to keep her friends safe. Standing and crying in the sidelines wouldn't do anybody any good. It would just make her a vulnerable target. Sasuke and Naruto were in dangerous states of chakra exhaustion. They both needed rest. Sasuke was slowly recovering, but Naruto's chakra seemed to fluctuate for no particular reason. Sakura grew worried that it was either the effects of Kyuubi or the Rinnegan. There was nothing she could do to help either of them except wait for them to recuperate because she had no medical experience. She prayed the both of them would recover soon. She hated feeling so useless in a situation like this. It entrenched the fact that she was basically nothing without the other members of her squad. After the exams, she swore to herself that she would strive to get even better in her training. Ninjutsu was one thing, but she definitely needed to improve her taijutsu beyond the typical academy formula and form her own style. Everyone else basically had clan jutsus to fall back on for help. Sakura laid on the wall nearby the opening of the tree cavern. Slowly she began nodding off. Maybe I'll ask Haku for help with learning basic medical taijutsu, thought Sakura, slowly closing her eyes to slumber. It should be simple enough for me to learn with my chakra control. The next morning, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto, kneeling before getting back up, I've successfully evaded being discovered leaving the exam. The proctors are too busy assessing the destruction caused within the Forest of Death and the lead proctor's murder by your hands. Shall I give you my report? Orochimaru carefully rubbed his left hand. The hand wasn't fully functional yet and his strength was slow to recover. The White Snake's restorative abilities were truly impressive. He planned to get his report, give his orders, and leave. He wasn't arrogant enough to flaunt that he was here in front of Sarutobi-sensei if it meant that he couldn't defend himself. He would just be putting himself in harm's way, especially since the Hyouten user had likely submitted his report to the Hokage already. I have to get to the bottom of this, thought Orochimaru. There is nothing that science cannot explain. There had to be a legitimate reason for what happened in the Forest of Death. The Kyuubi shouldn't have been able to unleash a mythic bloodline, use it to nearly kill me, and known so much about my life. This isn't making any sense. The Kyuubi is the most unknown of all the Biju. That boy is its first Jinchuriki. After it was discovered that the 8 tails could be sealed, people hypothesized that the 9 tails could be as well. There is too much unknown about that monster to come up with a sound hypothesis. I need more information. I cannot afford for that boy to jeopardize my invasion plans. Kabuto waited patiently for his master to speak. He had already caught on to the fact that something went wrong in the Forest of Death. If Orochimaru incinerating 1/8 of the forest and killing a proctor hadn't been indication enough, then his actions right now clearly cemented the fact. Orochimaru wasn't being boastful about his plans, he was acting reserved, and that was a telling sign for Kabuto that something had gone horribly wrong. Kabuto, I've made a change of plans, said Orochimaru, finally speaking. Kabuto stood into attention. I have decided to give Uchiha Sasuke the cursed seal after the invasion has succeeded. Therefore, the teammates you drugged and experimented on to suit our needs in forcing Sasuke to rely on the cursed seal are no longer required. Instead of entering the 3rd phase of the exams, you will travel to Karigakura to infiltrate the Sandaime Mizukage's personal vault to steal his theological manuscripts. Kabuto couldn't stop himself from gaping at what he had been told. There was just so much wrong with it. Something traumatic must have occurred for Orochimaru to give him such absurd orders. Why would Orochimaru forego giving Uchiha Sasuke the cursed seal when the boy was competing in an exam and more likely to rely on its power? Why would Orochimaru order him away from being a useful spy in Konoha to putting his life on the line during a civil war to breach a paranoid Kage's vault and steal the man's written works, which were largely known as the ramblings of a lunatic? Kabuto then noticed. Orochimaru-sama, began Kabuto, peering at Orochimaru's left hand. Allow me. Orochimaru let out an annoyed sigh before holding out his left hand so that Kabuto could heal it. Kabuto flowed healing chakra into it and successfully restored the hand to full function. Thank you, said Orochimaru, sighing in annoyance once more. Kabuto knew that Orochimaru hated being perceived as weak with his subordinates. This was despite the fact Kabuto was the one person that Orochimaru could always trust. Kabuto, give me your personal comparison of Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto's abilities. Was there anything noteworthy that you found on their academy records? Ah, yes, Uchiha Sasuke's abilities are extraordinary as a genin. He gained top marks in virtually all of his tests. Began Kabuto, he has the typical profile of a young, confident, and able shinobi from a strong bloodline clan. He exudes a cool indifference that is common among the most powerful clans. He has latent talent, but unfortunately all accounts of him having potential to rise through the ranks like Uchiha Itachi seem baseless. Most of the shinobi clans are fearful of that because they do not want a second Itachi being brought up. He has developed a certain level of maturity in recent months since he was assigned to Hatake Kakashi. I don't know why, but it seems the strong sense of team unity that comes with the will of fire has affected him strongly. It was probably caused by the escort mission to the Land of Waves, which turned into an A-rank mission. And the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Uzumaki Naruto, is a bit of an anomaly. That is not because of his abilities though. It's because the instructors plainly sabotaged his performance records, said Kabuto with a hint of disgust. During my internship at the academy, I keenly went through the information and had to double-check nearly all of it. Some of it was blatantly sabotaged by genjutsu on his tests, some had the actual answers clearly erased and rewritten to the wrong answer, and his performance in moving up grade levels from the graduating exam by neutral proctors doesn't follow the consistency of all the poor exam scores that he received throughout the academy. Nobody bothered to notify the Hokage of this. If I wasn't a spy, I would have done so because the boy's potential was being wasted due to bigotry. Orochimaru stared blankly at being given the truth. That information explained why the boy was capable of destroying his summoned snake. The pieces were beginning to fit. Uzumaki Naruto was a boy that was legitimately talented and had one of the strongest biju sealed inside of him. That begged the question. Orochimaru's curiosity was piqued. From the information that you uncovered, said Orochimaru, what is your personal appraisal of the boy's abilities? There is no certain way to make a satisfactory judgment because of all the tampering, said Kabuto, trying to hide the irritation he felt when looking over those files. Any other shinobi village with the exception of Iwagakure no Sato would have praised Uzumaki's talents. But, it is safe to say that his knowledge and skills place him on the same level as the rookie of his year, Uchiha Sasuke. He shouldn't be the dead last of his year. From my own personal opinion, I would rank Uzumaki Naruto higher. In fact, if what I've surmised about his actual records is true, then Uzumaki Naruto had the capacity to be regarded as a shinobi genius similar to Uchiha Itachi and his own sister, Uzumaki Karen. His potential was being stunted during his academy years. His critical thinking scores should only be a bit lower than the Nara in his graduating class. That is one of the reasons I was so disgusted. Nara exuded laziness and a complete lack of care for the importance of shinobi training. Uzumaki showed enthusiasm which only welted down to quiet curiosity after his clan abandoned him. Before his family left, the boy was rambunctious and boasted that he would be Hokage. That changed over the years. He began keeping to himself. Why didn't you tell me any of this before? Questioned Orochimaru, displeased. This information would have been useful when he fought Uchiha Sasuke's genin team. What else did you know about the boy? You only wished to know about Uchiha Sasuke's battle capabilities, said Kabuto, sliding his glasses back to the bridge of his nose with his right hand. I made sure to thoroughly research all the genin participating in the Chunin exams. I would have willingly given you the information that you desired if you had made the request. Did you know about the boy's bloodline limit? Asked Orochimaru annoyed. You could have at least told me that he seemed to be exhibiting signs of one. What bloodline limit? Asked Kabuto in genuine surprise. All my research indicates that he doesn't have one. Apart from the incident 6 years ago when he apparently used the Kyuubi's chakra to survive a mob attempting to kill him, there hasn't been any indication of the extraordinary from Uzumaki. He's a shinobi genius who was stunted in growth, but that's all that I could surmise. He awakened the Rinnegan, hissed Orochimaru in hatred of the memory. Kabuto's mouth hung agape at that news. Before that moment, I could have said with full confidence that everything related to the Rinnegan was just religious superstition that foolish sheep who were led by either opportunists or crazies believed in. And now, I must re-evaluate what we know to be the truth about bloodline limits. That perhaps they aren't simply positive genetic traits that are passed down to family via chromosomes but actual rewards bestowed by divine beasts. The Rinnegan, said Kabuto, expressing his disbelief. But how? The religious texts about the Rinnegan's powers never made any sense. Most modernist researchers today agree that it's non-demonstrable and unquantifiable. Some texts say that the Messiah literally vanished into thin air without use of any jutsu, that he crafted the moon into existence from nothing, and other preposterous events that aren't possible even with the jutsus we have today. That is exactly why I'm sending you to Karigakura, said Orochimaru, frustrated. The boy should have shown signs of having the Rinnegan at an early age. The information that Jiraiya and Sarutobi Sensei brought before the council 6 years ago suggested that he was slowly adjusting to Kyuubi's chakra over time. There was nothing that suggested in the reports that he had a bloodline, and it's doubtful that they would keep it a secret if the boy's standing throughout the village, including his own family, would only have improved. It was only after demonic chakra leaked throughout his system that he gained the Rinnegan. The only unknown factor in all of this is the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Very well, Orochimaru-sama, said Kabuto, bowing respectfully. I shall dispose of those two and leave immediately for Karigakura. Is there anything else? No. Once you've infiltrated and taken the manuscripts, make sure to send them over to me via summoning, instructed Orochimaru. After that, come back here to Konoha and prepare for your part in the invasion. It'll be more difficult to take on the appearance of Anbu with what I've just caused, but I'll arrange for one of the sound team to be killed by the Ikibi Jinchuriki as a distraction so they're less focused on outside threats and more concerned on the stability of the foreign Jinchuriki. Dismissed. Make sure to send a snake over to inform me once you've returned to Konoha. Orochimaru immediately shunshined away. He was obviously headed back for Otogakure for some much-needed rest. Kabuto sighed before departing back into the forest of death via Shunshin no Jutsu 2. Why would the Rinnegan appear in the world now after almost 2,000 years? Thought Kabuto, pondering over his own research into bloodlines. The only other person besides the Rikudo Sennin said to wield those eyes was the Rikudo Sennin's supposed son. That body was encased and preserved for thousands of years by religiously fanatic bloodline purists within what became Karigakura. This was before Karigakura ever became a shinobi village. The Shidaime Mizukage's excavation and findings proved the body didn't have a dojutsu. It was just a normal body. A trace of the eyes should have still been there. Degradation of dojutsus don't happen for hundreds of years after the body dies. The Hyuga's Byakugan is almost completely indestructible, which is why the cage bird seal was implemented on the many branch families so grave robbers wouldn't make use of the dead bodies. The Rikudo Sennin's apparent son had his body mummified and given many powerful preservation seals and jutsus. It should have lasted, but the findings were consistent and disproved that the mummified body ever had the Rinnegan. What does the Kyuubi have to do with the Rinnegan? None of the other Jinchuriki in history ever gained a bloodline limit from their bijus. The Kyuubi has never been sealed before and is the most powerful of them, but that's non sequitur. Orochimaru-sama has to be mistaken about what he perceives to be the truth. I doubt Yagiri Yagura's manuscripts can be of any help. This is a red herring. Following the simplest idea, Naruto was probably just born with it, and for some unknown reason it didn't manifest itself until yesterday. Something clearly isn't adding up. How did the Kyuubi know how to utilize a 2,000-year-old mythic bloodline? The only stories surrounding Kyuubi are Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama using their bloodlines to manipulate and control it. Even those are just legends that the people of Konoha boast about. None of it was ever proven true. It's just self-serving myths to project the idea that Konoha is a fearsome military power. The Sandaime and elderly council stay quiet about those details for that reason. Kabuto observed the bodies of his two slumbering teammates. Killing them and making it look like another team did it would be easy enough. Kabuto's disappearance would be ruled as unknown, but most would just assume that animals had eaten his carcass. He would leave an article of clothing with some of his blood on it just to be safe. When I come back, I'll be keeping a closer eye on you, Uzumaki Naruto, mused Kabuto thoughtfully. If given the right motivation and circumstances, you could become the next Uchiha Itachi. Sakura's eyes snapped open awake when she heard the sound of 3 pairs of feet landing nearby the clearing. She made sure to seal the opening of the tree with her earth wall jutsu, but the sound trio had already seen the unconscious forms of Naruto and Sasuke. We've come for Uchiha Sasuke, said Dosu threateningly. Our Otokage, Orochimaru of the Sannin, has ordered us to kill him. Give him to us now and we promise to spare your life. Sakura's eyes widened in horror before she let out a snarl. She wanted to murder that stupid snake Sannin herself. That stupid fucking son of a bitch. Thought Sakura livid. Why the hell is he trying so hard to murder Sasuke? What the hell is his problem? If these bastards want to kill one of my friends so much, then they'll have to do it over my dead body. Go to hell, shrieked Sakura audibly enough for them to hear. You'll have to get through my dead body before I let you touch a hair on Sasuke. That can be arranged, said Dosu carelessly. He turned to his male teammate, Zaku. Break through the earth wall. We'll pull Uchiha's body out and snap his neck. Roger that, said Zaku smirking overconfidently. He moved both his hands to face toward the earth wall while walking a few steps forward. Watch this, Kin. You're about to see a real man in action. Kin snorted to avoid outright laughing. Dosu didn't like when they fooled around with potshots during important missions. Zankaha. A powerful gust of wind hit the wall blocking the tree cavern entrance and demolished it. Sakura cut the first of 3 ropes beside her with a kunai as the wall crumpled to dust. Zaku narrowly dodged a tree trunk that came swinging tethered to a few of Sasuke's metallic wires. He moved back closer to his teammates as the tree trunk slowly stopped swinging and hung in front of them. Is that the best this bitch has? Said Kin mirthfully. An academy trick as a defense. How the hell did she even make it to the Exa? There was a puff sound, and when the small fog cleared, the tree trunk was revealed to be loaded with deadly explosive tags. There was an audible gasp as 3 dived out of the way as the tree trunk exploded. Sakura took the time to put up another earth wall to cover the opening of the tree. That's it, growled Zaku angrily as he got up from the ground. I'm killing that bitch. Above us, shouted Kin, pointing her thumb upward. Dosu got up off the floor and looked above to see shuriken projectiles with explosive tags attached to the sides of them. His visible eye widened before he looked at Zaku and bellowed orders. Zaku, use a full blast above us, hollered Dosu in a slightly panicked voice. Now. Zaku, getting the message, raised his arms up. He aimed his arms a bit wide so that his attack would hit all the shuriken. Zenkakyokua, screamed Zaku at the top of his lungs. A high amount of wind chakra let loose in the sky above him, and the shuriken all detonated in the air on impact with the strong gust of wind. Zaku slouched onto the floor and breathed harshly at the effort that he had to put into that attack. Mild chakra exhaustion was already setting in. The debris of what was left fell onto the floor harmlessly. Zaku growled as he was covered in it. That could have killed us, screeched Kin in anger. When I get my hands around that pink-haired bitch's throat, all. Enough, snarled Dosu. He was tired of all their stupid whining. Our objective is Uchiha Sasuke. Focus your revenge after we've achieved our goal. We mustn't displease Orochimaru-sama. That stopped both dead. They kept their individual string of complaints to themselves. This was a task that the Otokage had specifically given them, and failure meant death. TCH, pathetic, said a condescending voice from above. All 3 sound shinobi turned to the voice from up a tree to the left of them. You can't beat one genin from another team. That's just embarrassing. The speaker jumped down from the tree and landed gracefully onto the ground. Two successive thuds to the right and left of him indicated that his team was with him. Dosu noted an odachi katana strapped to the boy's hip. It was rather peculiar that the boy could move so gracefully with such a slender and long sword strapped to him. Uzumaki Idate at your service, said the young man smirking. He gestured to two behind him. These are my teammates, Uzumaki Yakumo and Uzumaki Renmara. We've come to graciously aid you with your goal. Why? Asked Kin skeptically before Dosu could say anything. Dosu glared at her. She shrugged in reply, completely unapologetic. Simple, we're basically after the same thing, said Idate, not losing the smug visage. You're after Uchiha Sasuke, we don't really care about that. We're here to kill the girl's other teammate, Uzumaki Naruto. Dosu would raise an eyebrow if he had any. Kin looked dumbfounded and Zaku just looked confused. Dosu was considering the offer, but he wanted to know more. Before you ask, I'll answer the reason. It's because he's been a complete embarrassment to the clan name since birth. He has no bloodline limit, he's performed so poorly in the academy that it's pathetic, and we can't have such a bad apple known, especially when our clan is preparing to make itself recognized throughout the shinobi world soon. We're aiming to gain a lot of contracts from foreign dignitaries. That will mean plenty of hefty paychecks for the clan. Our clan's standing within the village and with our daimyo is sure to improve monumentally once that happens. It will look bad if people research us only to find that on one hand we have clan geniuses like my fiancé Uzumaki Karen and on the other we have that reject to our name. If we kill him, then his importance will be far less significant. He'll be regarded in the past tense instead of in the present, and our successful clan members will be given the proper consideration that they deserve. We three were chosen and trained to bring about glory to the noble Uzumaki clan. We cannot allow our hard work to be jeopardized by that reprobate making it into the third phase of the exams. It would be damaging to our clan's reputation and goals. All right then, said Dosu, giving them a calculating look, we want proof that you're being sincere about your objective though. Idate opened his arms wide as a gesture of good faith. He was happy that negotiation was going so smoothly. Of course, that's completely acceptable, responded Idate before turning to his purple-haired teammate, Renmara. Break through the girl's defenses and kill that dumbass. Leave the Uchiha for them. Shall I kill the girl too? Asked Renmara, looking at his leader. Your call, said Idate, shrugging. It'll probably make the work much quicker if you do kill her though. Renmara merely nodded and took out two upper arm bones onto both his hands. Kin looked disgusted when she saw that. Dosu's eye widened upon realizing that Renmara had the dead bone pulse bloodline limit like Kagaya Kimimaro. He made a mental note to be extra careful around this team. Dosu didn't know much about them, and Orochimaru hadn't given the Sound Trio any information about this team. It seemed Konoha had many powerful bloodline limit clans. Renmara got into position for Tsubaki no Mai. The taijutsu style would easily break through the wall with his dense upper arm bones, and he could then strike at the girl in her moment of weakness. There would be no way to avoid his attack in that small space. Suddenly, the pink-haired opponent in question dived down toward him from up in the trees. He easily backstepped her pitiful desperate attack and watched her ungracefully fall to the floor in a heap. Renmara shook his head at the display. He lunged to strike at her but stopped once the girl changed into a log with explosive notes strapped all over it. Renmara's eyes widened and he briefly contemplated how foolish he had been. Yakumo immediately concentrated her chakra. Yakumo vanished using Shunshin from where she was by Idate's side to reappear right between Renmara and the log. The log exploded in a fiery boom and black smog enveloped both of them. The black smoke cleared to reveal that both of them were perfectly fine. Yakumo turned around to glare at Renmara for his slip-up. Idate gave Renmara an annoyed look too. Yakumo concentrated to Shunshin back to Idate's side. Don't slip up like that again, Renmara, warned Idate with a stern look. That was completely embarrassing, and if not for Yakumo then you would have been killed by an academy-level trick. Renmara bowed his head in apology. He was ashamed that he let his arrogance get the better of him. The Sound Trio was already looking skeptical about Team Uzumaki's ability to handle this mundane situation. He intended to show that girl just what she was dealing with. Kunai projectiles from the sides of the tree cavern suddenly shot out and flew straight at the two teams. Renmara unleashed bone spikes throughout his body and got into a defensive position. Once the hundreds of kunai were close enough, Renmara began his counter dance. Karamatsu no Mai, shouted Renmara, as he moved his body into a fast whirl and deflected all kunai attacks. The kunai were knocked above and some became embedded into the trees above them all. They exploded once high in the air and the sound trio realized that the purple-haired boy had hit them all before they could detonate. The ones embedded in the trees caused the wood of the trees to char slightly. Renmara stopped his momentum and turned to face the earth wall. These delay tactics are pathetic, snapped Renmara as he retracted the bones back into his body. You should just give up. You have no way of stopping a group of 6 people. Accept your loss with dignity and I'll make your death painless. A hand shot out from underneath the ground and grabbed Renmara's ankle. Renmara gasped in surprise because his sensing ability indicated that the girl was still inside the tree cavern. He was pulled into the ground with only his head free to move. Idate jumped onto a tree as Yakumo was suddenly the next victim of the Doden, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu. The sound trio jumped on another tree separate from Idate to avoid Sakura's earth jutsu. You think this has immobilized me? Muttered Yakumo, rolling her eyes. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than this. The ground began shaking where Yakumo was trapped. The ground itself began to break as cracks formed around her, and Yakumo burst forth from the ground itself. Sakura was pushed up from the ground as well and Yakumo took advantage by expertly punching straight through Sakura's chest. Sakura burst into water to reveal that it had been a mere water clone all along. Yakumo vaulted in the air for a few seconds before landing in front of Renmara. She grabbed his shoulders in a vice-like grip and pulled him out from the ground. She set him aside on the ground next to her where he promptly fell to the floor because of his own imbalance from being pulled so harshly. You're welcome, said Yakumo, chuckling slightly at his sour expression. The girl's out of tricks and from what I can detect, she'll be out of chakra soon too. I'll admit she's smart enough to come up with good delay tactics. But in the end, that's all they are. She can't stop us. Yakumo was correct. Sakura had been using too much chakra when she used the earth decapitation and water clone jutsus. She had precious little chakra left. She had already reinforced the strength of the earth wall by putting more chakra into it. There wasn't much that she could do now. The real Sakura burst forth from the ground behind them. She rapidly went through the hand seals and shot forth a jet of fire toward Yakumo and Renmara. Sakura didn't have the chakra to use the full Kaden Gokaku no Jutsu, so she had to settle for a stream of fire burning a small area of the ground. Sakura slowly allowed the fire to recede and took a few harsh breaths from the overexertion of her chakra. While she was doing this, Kin dropped down from the trees and threw a kunai at her. Sakura narrowly missed it, impaling her head by inches. She moved her head quickly out of the way and turned to regard Kin with a scowl. Kin smirked as she revealed a thin, nearly invisible, wire attached to the kunai. Sakura hadn't seen the small bells attached to the kunai and Kin used her chakra to activate the bells. Gah! Screeched Sakura as her body was forcefully paralyzed. No. Too bad, so sad, said Kin with a sneer. Payback time, bitch. Please, allow me, said Renmara, reappearing with Yakumo from where they had moved out of the way of Sakura's fire jutsu. I wish to amend my previous negligence. Before Kin could get a say in the matter, Renmara suddenly appeared right before Sakura in the Tsubaki no Mai battle pose. He slashed deeply into Sakura's abdomen, causing her to cry out in pain. Kin dropped the string and backed away as Renmara began viciously cutting into Sakura's flesh. He swiped his bone swords around Sakura's chest, causing lacerations in multiple places. His movement was too fast for the naked eye to see, so the cuts seemed to appear on Sakura's body out of thin air. Renmara changed the technique to a stabbing motion, causing dozens of stab wounds to appear all over Sakura's body and cut into her lacerations even deeper. Once Renmara was done, he held his bone blades high in the air, pointing at Sakura in a mantis pose. Sakura's blood was dripping from those bones. Sakura howled in agony as the blood around her leaked from her body. Renmara pivoted on one foot to whirl in a circle and bring his leg up. He kicked Sakura in the stomach with a heavy leg strike. Sakura spat out blood as she was hit painfully on the lacerations she just received. Sakura flew backward at a nearby tree and collided with it head first. She fell forward onto the ground and no longer moved. Blood pooled around her body from the injuries that she received. Now to break that wall, Renmara narrowly dodged a spin kick from behind. If not for his adept chakra sensing ability, that attack would have knocked him unconscious. Renmara turned around to find a boy slightly older than him in a green jumpsuit. How unyouthful, said Rock Lee in obvious anger, to attack in a 6-on-1 against a helpless girl, have you no shame? Renmara raised an eyebrow at that before being forced to dodge more of Lee's fast-paced strikes. Lee struck at Renmara with a flurry of punches. Renmara wasn't able to keep up with Lee's speed and was forced to use his 2 bones as guards for the last strike. Upon impact, Renmara found himself skidding on the ground from the force of Lee's blow. Lee charged forward in an effort to take him down. Luck was on Renmara's side because at that moment Dosu had dropped down to the ground and used his sound wave technique from behind Lee. Lee cried out in pain as his senses became disoriented. Lee attempted to turn around only to find Zaku poised to strike with his wind arms. Renmara made sure to get out of the danger zone for what was about to happen. Zenkakyokua, bellowed Zaku smirking. Lee was blasted into the air like a ragdoll. The back of his head slammed into a tree before the velocity of the gust of wind picked up. The wind jutsu blew him further away from the clearing. He was soon completely out of sight. Oh my god, murmured Ino subconsciously, watching as Lee's body was blown miles away. That was just brutal. Let's leave before they see us, said Shikamaru surveying the scene before him from a good distance. Those 2 teams aren't playing around and it looks like they've joined together. We don't want to get into anything troublesome. Oh good god, Sakura! Screeched Ino, finally getting a good look at the bloody body on the ground. Did you not hear what I just said? Hissed Shikamaru, irritated. We need to go. It'll be troublesome if we get involved and there is no chance of us winning against them. And leave Sakura to bleed out and die, said Ino, scowling as she turned her head to face Shikamaru. Are you crazy? Who knows what will happen to her if we don't help her? I'm the strategist of this team and I say we leave, bit out Shikamaru in annoyance. If we get involved then we'll more than likely end up dead. Sakura ran into bad luck, too bad for her. It's to be expected since this exam is a life or death game. Situations like this are obviously going to pop up. She signed up for it. Let's just leave before we get soused into her mess. Seriously, fuck you Shikamaru, replied Ino venomously. Yeah, I get it. Shit like this happens a lot because of how this exam is made. That doesn't mean we should leave Sakura to get killed. This isn't some random person that we don't know. It's fucking Sakura. I'm not leaving her to die. What about you, Choji? What do you think? You'll help me save Sakura, right? Choji looked between his 2 teammates. They were both clearly agitated. Both expected him to pick their side. He looked hesitantly between the 2 before sighing. Let's go help her, Shikamaru, said Choji pleadingly. He didn't want to get into an argument with his best friend. I don't want her death on my conscience. It's wrong to just leave her like that. Ino didn't waste any time. Shikamaru tried to tell her to wait because he still wanted to argue against what was certainly a suicidal endeavor. Shintention no jutsu. Damn it, you troublesome retard. Idate dropped down from the tree above onto the clearing. He stopped and looked up to see a human boulder rapidly closing in on his location from up in the air. He briefly shook his head in amusement before unsheathing his odachi. He swung the sword back to the side with both his hands and pushed forward. He struck at Choji's body in a powerful swing similar to a bat hitting a ball. The pure momentum of his movement sent Choji's body careening. Choji's body hit a far tree with a thud, causing the jutsu to wear off. The boy's body slumped along the tree that he impacted upon and a thin cut could be seen on his sternum. Pathetic, said Idate, allowing his sword to hang loosely in his right hand. When the hell am I going to actually fight a challenging opponent? The teams we've beaten so far were pitiful. You'll pay for that, said Shikamaru, jumping out in the open and finishing his hand seals, Kujimane no Jutsu. The shadow attached itself to Idate's shadow. Idate raised an eyebrow. Call off your team and this won't get ugly, said Shikamaru tiredly. I have your movements under my control because of my jutsu. It'll be useless for you too, shit. Idate rolled his eyes as Shikamaru fell flat on his face unconscious. He hadn't needed to do anything for that one, and the Nara's chakra was just pathetic. Don't move a muscle, screamed Kin all of a sudden with a kunai poised at her own throat, or else, I'll kill this girl. So what? Replied Dosu unaffected, our only goal is to kill Uchiha Sasuke. We could care less about her life. But it's your teammate. Replied Ino in Kin's body. She was shocked at that answer. Don't you care at all? I care a bit, admitted Zaku with a sneer. Hopefully, I get to bang her before rigor mortis sets in. Ha ha ha. Everyone else, including Dosu, looked disgusted by that comment. They all gave Zaku a peculiar gaze upon reflex. Something was clearly wrong in that brain of his. Ino immediately let go of her control when Zaku raised his arm. Zankaha! Bellowed Zaku. The wind jutsu knocked Kin's body onto a tree behind her where she fell unconscious. Ino awoke within her own body and panicked. She calmed herself down before racking her brain as she tried to think of a good way to resolve the situation. Sakura was still in danger, Shikamaru and Choji were unconscious, and she was basically looking at a 5-on-1 odds. What do I do? Thought Ino, getting desperate. What the hell do I do? She began positioning her handseal again. Ino acted without thinking. Shintenshin no jutsu. Ino looked around in the body she now possessed. She pointed her arms at the Uzumaki girl. Z Zankaha, said Ino hesitantly, forcing as much chakra into the arms. Take that. To Ino's surprise and relief, it had worked. Yakumo skidded and nearly fell forward due to the surprise of the attack from behind. She turned to face Zaku and glared at him. What the, oh, I get it, said Yakumo, sensing a foreign chakra in the boy's system. Well, you're a creep anyway, so you deserve this. Ino pulled out of Zaku's consciousness as Yakumo punched Zaku in the gut, harshly knocking him out. Dosu tried to hide his panic. Both his teammates were unconscious now, and there was no stopping Team Uzumaki if they wanted to kill him. He kept his cool while attempting to search for the presence that was disturbing both teams' objectives. There it is, said Idate, pointing to the left of them where Ino was hiding from afar. The chakra capacity was so weak that I thought it was some animal. It's the girl who has been possessing your team. Let's. He stopped upon sensing 3 new chakra signatures suddenly shining into the area. Kikaichu bugs shot forth all of a sudden. They swarmed around his body and obscured his vision. Kiba, Shino, and Hinata had appeared in the clearing. Hinata immediately ran toward Renmara and began to engage him in taijutsu combat. Kiba put Akamaru on the floor and ran at Idate. Get ready to have your ass handed to ya, shouted Kiba, spinning his body and attacking with his clan's mixed taijutsu and wind jutsu technique, Gatsuga. Kiba, wait. Shino's warning came too late. Half of the Kikaichi bugs flew away from Idate in fear. The other half had already dropped dead. Idate swung his sword in a 45-degree angle toward Kiba in his Gatsuga state. There was a rupturing sound as Kiba's momentum was stopped. He flew high in the air with a gash across his chest, screaming in pain. Idate snarled in rage as half his Odachi's blade was broken apart and fell to the floor tonelessly. Idate brought his leg up and bent it backward as Kiba came falling down to the ground in front of him. Idate rapidly kicked Kiba in the crotch, the stomach, and then the neck. In what looked like one fluid movement, Kiba was choking in pain as he flew a few meters away and fell unconscious by Shino's feet. Akamaru growled and lunged toward Idate, but Idate simply punched the dog in the nose when it was close enough. Akamaru was sent flying and hit a tree behind Shino unconscious. Idate tossed the useless sword aside and glared at Shino. Shino felt fear swell inside him for the first time in many years. Is this what Konoha's lesser clans have been reduced to? Said Idate condescendingly, shaking his head in pity. Absolutely embarrassing. Why do I have to prove myself to a village full of such dregs? Our clan should already be in a greater standing than most of the others. We're clearly superior to you all. Do you believe yourself to be the strongest one here? Asked Shino, stalling so that he could form an effective counter-attack, but unfortunately nothing was coming to mind. Of course I am, said Idate, sneering. The results don't lie, do they? I just took down the Nara, Akamichi, and Inazaka without any real effort on my part. You can't do anything against me either. I was taking down teams from foreign countries single-handedly. Maybe when the third phase starts, I'll have more of a challenge, but I doubt it. The Uchiha's team was already beaten on day one by another team from the looks of it. I know not to expect much from them. I bet the reprobate fell into a trap or did something else stupid that nearly got himself and the Uchiha killed. Maybe the Hyuga genius of the branch clan will put up more of a fight, assuming his team makes it to the finals. Hinata and Renmara were fighting fiercely in a deadlocked battle. Both tried increasing their flurry of attacks. They would move, strike, and dodge each other's blows in near-perfect symmetry. Renmara's Tsubaki no Mai and Hinata's Juken were too good with counter-maneuvers for either of them to land a decent hit. Hinata had a few shallow cuts and Renmara had a few Juken strikes that missed vitals. They had minimally damaged each other and it seemed more like a battle of who would outlast the other. Renmara decided to try a different tactic. He moved to put more pressure onto a stabbing motion, hoping to injure the Hyuga heiress with a deep wound. This proved to be a mistake. Hinata channeled chakra onto her hand and moved it quickly sideways to put forth a blue chakra wall that knocked back his attack. The rebound of hitting the small chakra wall left Renmara wide open and his eyes widened in fear of what was to come. Hake Rokujuyun Sho, said Hinata as she unleashed the 8 trigrams 64 palms technique. Renmara cried out as he felt his tenketsu forcefully sealed from Hinata's precise blows. He fell to the floor unable to move. Hinata's bulging white eyes turned to face Yakumo only to then turn to Idate. Yakumo was being possessed by Ino. She was using Yakumo's body to run toward a confused Dosu. Get out of here, snapped Hinata coldly, and I won't report a clear political assassination attempt by Clan Uzumaki in order to usurp the glory of the Chunin exam finals. A chill went down Idate's spine. Wanton murder was allowed, but if a specific murder was done by orders of an authoritative figure of the genin, then the clan or the village who condoned such actions would have to pay a hefty fine. The organizations responsible for such violations were either kicked out of the exams entirely or could only continue participating in future exams under heavy restrictions. Either way, it would force the examiners to disqualify Team Uzumaki and bring shame upon the clan until the next Chunin exams. We didn't come to kill that fool because of orders, said Idate annoyed. We decided to kill him because we wanted to. He's an embarrassment and will only reflect poorly upon our clan. Who do you think the examiners are more likely to believe? Questioned Hinata, smiling cruelly. The esteemed Hyuga heiress or a clan that is so blatantly out for gold and attention? You worthless beggars are so pathetic. Get out of my sight, urchins. How dare you? Shouted Idate hatefully. Why the hell are you interfering? This has nothing to do with the Hyuga clan. I don't like needless killing. The purpose of this exam may be structured to allow wanton death, but absolutely nothing requires me to just accept that, said Hinata coolly. If I can put a stop to it whenever and wherever possible, then I shall. That's all there is to it. TCH, a bunch of childish sentiment is all it is, said Idate dismissively. Fine, have it your way. Yamanaka, get out of Yakumo so we can leave. Ino had made a crack in Dosu's metallic arm by stabbing it harshly with Yakumo's kunai. Ino immediately released her hold on Yakumo. Yakumo looked around confused momentarily before she recalled the orders and grabbed Renmara. She jumped high into the tree tops and fled. You'll regret this, Hyuga, said Idate, scowling at Hinata, someday in the future. Who knows what will happen? Maybe once the Uzumaki clan has gained world fame and I'm there as its clan head, your clan will be begging mine to give you up as my concubine. The very idea that I would be in union with one of you arrogant Uzumaki beggars is disgusting, said Hinata icily. Please, keep your stupid perverted fantasies to yourself, or else there may be rumors spread about your clan's association with the foreigners from Sound. Be certain of this, when my clan sees fit to wed me to someone suitable, it shall not be to an inferior clan like yours. Idate shunshined away before he shouted something more damning. Mere rumors about the Uzumaki clan helping the Sound trio would be bad publicity. People would question the Uzumaki's loyalty to Konoha. They would be false rumors, as the Uzumaki clan had nothing to do with the Sound village. Idate simply pounced on the opportunity of killing Uzumaki Naruto. He hadn't anticipated the negative political ramifications that could occur if someone such as the Hyuga heiress claimed that the Uzumaki clan had betrayed Konoha to assist the Sound. The Sound village was known to be created by Konoha's infamous S-rank traitor, Orochimaru of the Sannin. Hinata turned to face Dosu. Dosu scowled as he found himself outmanned and with a broken weapon. He would need to leave and fix it. Dosu cautiously took out an earth scroll as Hinata looked at him with her Byakugan activated. She was daring him to make a move in her presence. Dosu put the earth scroll on the ground and stepped away. A parting gift, explained Dosu carefully. He knew that he was doomed if he tried to fight. Allow me to take my teammates and flee. You can decide amongst yourselves who gets to keep this scroll. Why should I allow that instead of just killing you right here? Asked Hinata threateningly. What guarantee do I have that you won't attack Uchiha Sasuke's team again? Or any of the other Konoha teams that helped them? Why should I trust your word? I shall not pursue Uchiha Sasuke's team any further, said Dosu shaking his head. Orochimaru-sama ordered us to kill Uchiha Sasuke. He explained to us that accomplishing this task would bring fear upon Konoha of what else our village was capable of. I doubt that we can accomplish that goal now. The Uchiha's team will be wary of us. I am no fool. My female partner sensed the Uchiha was unconscious and in a weak state, so I took the opportunity when it presented itself. I have researched the Sharingan's capabilities. The Uchiha could take us down without much effort with our current abilities. I shall wait until the third exam to challenge him personally. The Chunin exams are the perfect spectacle to showcase the village of Sound's true might. Leave before I change my mind, said Hinata, still keeping her eyes on him. Take too long and I shall strike. Are you serious? Yelled Ino coming from behind the bushes. These people were trying to kill Sasuke-kun. Look at what they did to Sakura. You're just going to let them go? Do you want to be responsible for murdering someone today, Yamanaka? Asked Hinata while still having her gaze set on Dosu. Interrogation is useless because he just told us all that we needed to know. Holding them could be dangerous for us, and unless you're willing to murder them, I think this is the best course of action considering the circumstances. Dosu finished gathering his teammates and leapt into the trees. He was out of sight before long. Hinata slowly allowed the chakra to recede from her eyes. Her body sagged as she felt very tired from having used so much chakra. She ignored Ino's cold look as she walked over to the earth wall that was still erect. Shino followed her. Ino went over to Sakura's side. Shino-san, please use your Kikaichu bugs to drain the chakra from this wall, asked Hinata politely. Uchiha Sasuke and Uzumaki Naruto are in there. Shino nodded. Draining the earth wall of chakra would help him recuperate his losses. His bugs swarmed the wall and drained the chakra within minutes. The bugs went back into Shino's body as the wall crumbled to dust. Hinata found the slumbering forms of Naruto and Sasuke inside. She kneeled down to get inside and used her Byakugan to find what she was looking for. Hinata paused in shock upon what was revealed to her when she used her Byakugan. Uchiha Sasuke's body had an extra amount of chakra in his eyes. That typically meant that a person had a dojutsu. However, Uzumaki Naruto's eyes had extra chakra in them too. It wasn't too hard to believe that it was just due to Naruto's large chakra reserves, but Naruto's body was fluctuating irregularly. Something was clearly amiss. Hinata's curiosity was piqued. She moved closer to Naruto and gently opened Naruto's eyelids. She let out an audible gasp upon seeing Naruto's eyes transform back and forth from his usual cerulean blue to the dark purplish eyes of the legendary Rinnegan. She carefully let them go. Slowly, a calculating smirk began to form on her visage in the darkness of the tree cavern. The Hyuga clan shall know of this, thought Hinata greedily. I think it's time to play my own political game. Shino had walked over to where Choji was and used his bugs to lay him on the ground beside Shikamaru. He looked over toward Ino and Sakura to see Ino in a panicked state. Ino had turned Sakura over to see the full extent of the damage. Ino was observing Sakura's injuries and had no idea what to do about them. She felt so helpless. Hinata came out of the tree cavern-like hole and walked toward where Ino and Sakura were. Hinata kneeled down beside Ino. Here, said Hinata, holding out the healing salve that she had given Naruto before the second exam started. It's a strong healing salve that will heal away deep cuts like the ones she has. I made it myself, and if you just apply it to her injuries, then they will be healed completely. She shall need to fully recover her strength in a day or two, but otherwise she should be fine. Ino took it without a word and opened it to begin applying it to Sakura's bleeding body. Hinata briefly contemplated helping but saw that Ino was doing a good enough job and chose instead to get up. She turned around and walked up to Shino. "We're leaving," said Hinata with a tone of finality. "We don't need the Earth Scroll and we already obtained a Heaven Scroll before we arrived here. We shall leave for the third phase of the exams immediately." "May I inquire about something?" asked Shino, specifically regarding that healing salve. "Why did you give it to Uzumaki Naruto in the first place?" "Oh, that. I gave that to him because he wanted to help his team if either ever got injured severely," said Hinata detachedly. "I demanded that he show me the hand seals for a few Suiten jutsus that he knew since Kurenai-sensei's chakra paper test showed that my affinity was water. I didn't know anybody else besides his own sensei who knew powerful Suiten jutsu and I knew that I wouldn't be taught the more powerful ones immediately. So I used the opportunity to my advantage. Most people know that I study medical jutsus at my leisure and that I have proficiency for making my own medicine and injury kits. I gave him one of my stronger healing salves and told him that it was just a business arrangement before the exams began. I didn't want him to get the wrong impression, after all." Shino nodded in understanding. He had his bugs hoist up Kiba in the air. Hinata went over to carefully grab Akamaru. Shino and Hinata both jumped into the trees to leave. Kiba's unconscious body was flown behind them via the Kikaichu bugs. Ino, muttered Sakura, waking up slowly. The first thing that she laid eyes on was Ino's relieved face. What happened?" Sakura slowly got up only to be hugged tightly by Ino. Sakura stiffened at the awkwardness of the situation. "I'm sorry, Sakura," cried Ino while hugging her. "I'm so sorry." Replied Sakura in her confused state of mind. "Okay. I thought they had killed you," said Ino shrilly. "I was so worried." Suddenly, Sakura recalled what happened. She pushed Ino off of her in a panicked state and was about to ask what happened when a noise interrupted her. Sasuke and Naruto both walked out of the tree cavern groggily. They both looked around and spotted Sakura on the floor by Ino. Sakura, having seen them, allowed her body to ease in relief and moved back to rest on the ground. She yawned tiredly and realized that she hadn't recovered her strength yet. She was asleep within minutes.